realize that there is a dynamic when it comes down to the different persons and their skill sets. So for today's class, I really want to do a recap before we do any deep dive into JavaScript because JavaScript is one of those things where it's more difficult to grasp than CSS and HTML, and it'll be good for us to be on the same page going into JavaScript. Because the idea is for everybody to learn something, as opposed to just going along assuming that everybody already knows and you know allowing them to fall behind. The idea is to just bring everybody together, achieve the same knowledge, achieve the same purpose, and they will move forward as best as we can. So, without further ado, I mean, I've seen a lot of new faces, faces that I've never seen before. So, I just wanted to go through the introductory phase again, meaning where I introduce myself, everybody taking shots at introducing themselves, and see how best we can, build a community around the movement. So I'll start with myself, and I'll just call the names on the side. And then as I call the names on the side, you can unmute and introduce yourself. All right, so I'll start by introducing myself. All right, so my name is Andre Gordon. I'm a computer scientist by profession. Really, I'm a computer scientist by profession. I've started numerous amount of companies. I'm just 27 years of age. I'm currently the owner of one company called Brainbox Solutions Limited, which is a tech company. So ideally, before I started a tech company, I used to work for a Canadian firm where I contributed to sites like Night.com, Guest Clothing Brand, just to name a few. And I realized that I needed to give back that talent to the Caribbean because I think they needed it the most. So I decided to put my job on a limb. I just jumped off a cliff and decided I'm going to start a business. So I started my own business with a couple other friends. Xavier is on the call, Andrew Pettigrew, which is not on the call. And we were all computer scientists. Xavier went to UE, I went to UTech, Andrew went to UTech as well. So the first company that we started, we sold it for a couple of millions of dollars, which we're not getting into. And then we used basically the profits from that one to start this new company called Brainbox. I'm involved with a couple of other initiatives outside of coding, heavy with finances, stocks, anything relating to making money, but it's not the focus. The focus for me is spirituality, Christianity, religion, not religion, but religion, but spirituality, Zen practices, meditation, that kind of thing is very essential for me. So I'm also certified in several programming languages around the world. So I just decided, like I said, for me, Nyla, along with Andre, I met Andre. We decided to start this initiative where we wanted to give back in some sense, but things are taking some unexpected turns. Like I said, I never expected so many persons to join. I just saw a bunch of people and I wanted to just give back the knowledge to people free of cost at beginning. And then as time progresses, we never know where the turn will take or the table will turn. So we're here, and I'm happy to see a lot of the guys joining today. So I'll just point to specific individuals for them to introduce themselves. Oh, this is Xavier Bryson, by the way. Um, one of the managers and team lead in Brainbox Solutions. So, all right, not a call I want to take right now. All right, so that's really it in a nutshell. And Brainbox, we're always looking for people to develop for. So right now we have approximately 25 plus developers or engineers working alongside us, along with two additional salesperson or sales engineer. We're looking for sales engineer as well, not to market the company on the call, but that's the idea. So if, for example, anybody's wondering where this skill set can take them, we're always looking for people to build things. We have a steady flow of clients. So we're always looking for engineers alike that can code and develop things. And it doesn't matter if you don't know everything or if you're not certified. We can teach it to you because we know it enough. So that's me in a nutshell. I think I'll just hand over to the individual by my left or my right for them to do their introductions, and then I'll continue with people on the call. So, Andre?
Sure. Greetings, everyone. So I'm Andre Stevenson, the co-founder of Nyla School. In terms of my historical experience, went to KC, did the sciences, was unsure about what I wanted to do in my life. Went to UA, did a degree in management. I think at that time, because I actually wanted to become a cardiologist at that time, but it was going to take too long, and I need to eat. So did a a management degree, left, realized that the future is really technical. To be honest, it's persons who are in terms of the orientation technical and can create stuff, right? So I returned to my first love, which was really the sciences. So math, chemistry, physics, biology. Taught myself how to code. Did some stuff on the side. Was working on Petrojam, then I left Petrojam to try to start the first Bitcoin exchange in Jamaica. Of course, the BOJ decided that that was not going to happen for
As
legal reasons.
always.
Yeah. So left that was actually trying to connect all of the hospitals. The second thing that I pursued after the Bitcoin thing was trying to connect all the hospitals in Jamaica because I felt like I should be able to go to KPH, do some tests, get my medical records, and carry it to UE or whatever the case may be. So I was actually trying to connect all of those things. But of course, like many other attempts in Jamaica specifically, it's very difficult to work with large organizations. After that, went to work for a company called Affinity Technologies, where I'm at currently. But I've always been passionate about education and trying to help people who are from the ghetto, moving them from low income to high income. And that is the idea behind AIDA presently. So our core focus is really wealth creation. How do you create wealth? By providing value, long-term value, providing it sustainably. And one way in which you can do that is by understanding how to build stuff and providing value for the workforce. So that is the fundamental aim of NAID, and I really appreciate, Shay and Xavier coming on board to assist in really building this out properly. So yes, I'm here for you guys. If you need help, WhatsApp me privately or in the group. We want to make the student experience as powerful as possible, so that when you leave, you actually feel like Naida is there with you to assist you in, improving your life, and living the good or attaining the good. So yeah, that's basically it.
All right, and just to add to what Andre just said, it's just like the future is technology. I mean, if it's not the forefront or the core of what you would do, it's good to know how it works, at least at a fundamental level, so you can properly navigate the sphere. Because the world is coming, the world is tech. If you look at Singapore, China, if you look at Thailand, if you look at all those countries who are actually doing it big in technology, you realize that the world is coming and we can't catch us on the back foot. So it's best you know the fundamentals before you can actually, navigate the future. That's really it. So Xavier,
Yeah, and adding to that, we're moving from smart homes to smart cities.
he's so excited about it. Like an evangelist, like a smart boy. Yeah, good.
If you look at some of the biggest tech companies, Facebook and I think it was Google, they're creating smart cities for their employees. So we're going there. It's inevitable. So my introduction now, I'm Xavier. I share a lot of similar background with Che, which is I worked at the same Canadian company. I'm in the same startup now. As you said, I'm the one of the tech leads slash managers of the company, and I hope to teach you a lot. Not really a man of many words, but yeah, I'm here to help. So you can always ask me questions.
And just like to add, guys, that in terms of Xavier, he's been really supportive of the initiative, adding value where he can. So if you guys have any questions, please put them in the WhatsApp group. The WhatsApp group is dated out, you guys. So if you have any questions, if you feel too, I guess, cute to put them in the WhatsApp group, you can message us privately to actually ask the questions. Because what we don't want is for you guys not to know and not tell us that you don't know, right? You don't want to leave the thing not knowing what you could have known if you just asked a question, right? So please engage and let us know how you feel about the whole thing. And remember, please give us some feedback on the syllabus. It's a living document, as said in the chat. So please let us know how you feel about it. We're building it out. We want to build it out properly. So the long-term vision is to be comparable to UE, Tech, and NC. That's a long-term vision. So we're really, really focused on quality. So let us know. Mhm.
All right, well said, Andre. So, yeah, man. So, I stated before, it's just like I said, programming is something that you can do just to channel or filter into the lesson. Programming in itself is just similar to a pencil. It's like or a paintbrush. You have different painters like Pablo Picasso, Vincent Van Gogh, just to name a few. You give them paintbrush and they paint. You don't know what they'll create. You just give them a standard paintbrush and they paint anything they want in different styles using different approaches, but at the end of the day, you see a beautiful picture. In essence, that is what programming is. All right. So let's start off with introductions. I see there's a Cassine Cooper. Cassine, do you want to start with the introduction, telling us about yourself, what your skill set are, what you hope to achieve from this class?
Okay, sure. Hi everybody. I'm Cassine. Uh, well, a bit of background about me. I got into UE for the computer science program, but life kind of happened, so I didn't get to complete it. But I did a little bit of Java, HTML, so I kind of have a little understanding, but I'm trying to, get back there. I have been recently just looking for courses to do to get me back on track, and I found Nyla. So I'm hoping that it gets me exactly where I want to be.
How long now have you been outside of school?
It has been 4 years. Yeah, 4 years.
Okay.
So yeah.
No worries, no worries. We all get a start in life, It's just like I said, the ability to get back up is really what defines us. So this is a good start. Good to have you on board, Cassie.
Thank you.
All right, so the morning Collins, you can go.
Yeah, Damani Collins. Yeah. So well, I'm not really new per se. I've been there the first time. So hey everyone. So my real purpose is to just get more familiar with the whole programming field. I as well started university, UTech especially, in computer science, right? And that was my major, right, in computer science, and as well due to circumstances and as well financial needs, I was unable to finish. So along with that, I'm now taking this opportunity that of course Naila has provided, and so with that now I see myself probably in the next 5 years as a website developer. So that is my future goal. So I mean, I'm just prepared, to put my focus here and to make sure that I can at least, reach out to others about this program, and as well to assist others who would like to, receive this type of skill. So that is it for me.
All right, so the morning, I want to ask you a question. Why did you choose computer science, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, for me especially, my passion was technology based. So I mean, from ever since, like, I had my brother had his first desktop. I was the one who actually pulled it down, from scratch and put it back up. Actually, when it was my first time, it didn't work. Like, I don't know what happened. So I mean, I said, okay, then what did I do wrong here? And then, I started to just move along with it. And then even in high school, I was a person who they would come to deal with any technical issue, and from that it just shoot off from there. So basically now see myself in this type of field. It basically gives me now the sense of where the world is going. So I'm saying, okay, I am where the world is planning on going now, so why not move along with
Well said. I like that, the morning. Thanks for sharing with us, man, and welcome to the class again.
it. Yeah, man, respect.
Yeah, man. All right, so I'll move over to Orlando Palmer. Welcome, Orlando. Tell us about yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Orlando Palmer. I'm a medical doctor. I work at UA. Um, Over the years, I've been a doctor for just about 15 months now. And over the year, I've realized that medicine isn't the way of the future, and computers actually are. And if I could find a way to integrate computers with medicine, I could do what Andre set out to do, which was integrate all the hospitals around the country. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that if I'm able to hone those programming skills, I could orchestrate. Even if I can't do it, I could help to orchestrate um, getting that preventing the fragmentation of your health. All right.
Yes, exactly.
Well
So
said.
I'm also out to help integrate and make our medicine in our country futuristic.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to share a story with you in Orlando. Have you heard the word or the name Douglas Halsall before?
Mm-mm, not yet.
So Douglas Halsall is a Jamaican billionaire. He's one of my many mentors. I give them credit where it's due. He's the one that created the health card system. The one every time you swipe your health card,
Yeah.
a certain amount of money is transferred to his account. So right now he owns a yacht, he owns many other things. A very simple system, but at the time, as you're aware how beneficial that medical system is, he's the one that created it. He's still alive today. You can look him up. I think he'll probably set you in the right
Digitize
direction.
you too.
Huh?
Your records.
Repeat?
You with the hospital. You
Yeah, he
hospital records.
digitized your hospital records as well. So I think you're in the right place. So I can understand, I can appreciate where you're going. I also have clients that are doctors as well. So I fully get you. And welcome to the class, man.
Thank
Good
you.
to have you again.
Thank you.
All right. So handing over to Anya. I hope I pronounced that right. Anya.
Yes, you did. It's Anya. Hi, everyone. Uh,
All right, cool. Welcome.
I'm, thank you. I'm Anya. I'm a student physio. I have always loved um, creating and computer science and computer technology. CSEC IT was my first love, but unfortunately, that's where I stopped. I since then I've always said to myself that I'm gonna teach myself to code. I'm gonna teach myself all the languages I need to create apps and create websites. I just never got around to it until today. So here I am. I know that naturally I'm a creator. I like to create things. So I think with learning this language, I don't know how far it will take me, but I do think it will take me very far. So let's see what I can create with my new knowledge.
All right. Well, I like that, Anya. Well, thanks for sharing, Anya, and welcome to the class. I think this is your first time, right? Because I don't remember the name.
Yes, it's my first class.
Welcome officially to Nyla. Good to have you on board.
Thank you.
So Nico, what's up? Welcome again. We can start with you, or Ace, sorry. Nico, are you there? I think you. So I see you on mute. Okay. So Nico is one of the persons that join us weekly, but he couldn't make it this week. So yeah, physically make it this week. All right. So Nico, we'll come back to you. I'm just going to move on to Kerry. Kerry, welcome.
Good morning. My name is Carrie. I'm an analyst by trade, but somehow my role is now switching into sort of a developer. So I'm trying to broaden my skills, learn some more, and see how I can apply that to my current job. Pretty much it.
All right, pleasure to have you on board, Kerry. Welcome. And again, sorry for the last minute call. I tend to get very busy during the week. So a lot of the things that I need to do during the week outside of Brainbox tends to not take the backseat, but it's hard to navigate.
Yeah, before, but just in case, so guys, if you have any questions for us, and you're not able to get through to Shay, myself, I'm always attentive to the group because I want the experience of the students to be A1. So if you have any questions at all, post it in the group, message myself. I was speaking to Xavier this morning about, well, first of all, thanking him for giving of his intelligence, but also him really saying that if anyone needs help, they can just put him the question in the group, or they could message him as well. Xavier.
I'm hearing some messages coming in.
Okay, all right, cool, right? So, so any questions that you guys have, if you're not able to get through the street, just message either myself or Xavier. Our numbers are in the group, so yeah.
All right, nice. Thanks, Andre. All right, so I'll move on to Joel Mackenzie. Know that name. Welcome, Joel. All right, I'm Joel. Okay, Joel, plan this thing. All right, no previous experience. Only played around. All right, so I'll just read it aloud. So Joel have no previous knowledge or experience in computer science or programming. Only played around with certain websites, but it's something I want to learn. All right, no problem. All right, welcome, Joel. I think you're pretty much on your way if you started to play with websites already. So welcome to the class. Good to have you on board, man.
Blessings again, Joel. Nice to see you.
Yeah, we'll see you again, right? Move over to Roxanne Brown. Welcome, Roxy, again. What's up, Roxanne?
So, hi, good morning. My name is Roxanne Brown. I'm usually in class physically, but because I'm also pursuing my master's degree, today I had to be at home multitasking. But I've been enjoying the classes so far and I've been learning. So that's what I'm here for, just open to learning and seeing what you guys can teach me. Maybe I might be able to use it in business as well, because that's what I'm studying. So ready for that.
Yeah, man.
By the way, I'm going to just put Roxanne out there and say that she's one of the brightest persons I know. She's well versed in physics, so if you guys need any help, Roxanne.
Wow. I mean, that's a lie. So if you do need help in physics, I can help because
Yeah.
if you need to reach out to me, it's fine. But wow,
Yeah.
thanks.
I'm just putting her out there. Yeah, we're all here to help.
Oh, and I didn't say I'm a database administrator, by the way.
Right, right.
And that aside, Roxanne also has a YouTube channel. I'm just going to market the hell out of Roxanne because
Yes, because she have our
Oh,
YouTube
okay,
channel.
yeah. Oh, finance.
she never did herself much justice,
Yeah.
but she's very good at financing, very good at budgeting. She helps me with my finances. So Roxanne has a YouTube channel. You can check it out. I think it's
And
Roxy.
I'm studying in business and finance, so there's
Well, true.
backing to that as well.
Big things are coming, because Roxy knows these things. So, like, subscribe to her page, like, subscribe, share, all of these nice things.
Not to
I
pretend.
appreciate you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, hit that subscribe button.
yeah. Smash that like button, guys. Smash that like button. Yeah.
All right, so I'm seeing a Jay. Hi Jay, welcome again. I think I've seen that before. I'm not sure if it's the same Jay, but welcome Jay.
It's Jordan Hoylet. Can you hear me?
Yeah, man, welcome Jordan. Pleasure to see you
Yeah.
again, bro.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm Jordan Hoylet. I'm currently doing a degree in finance and economics at school, but I always had a passion even before I selected my major for computer science. But I wanted to do finance because I like the business aspect of it. That's a long-term goal, and try to learn coding on the side. So this class and the resources it provides is very good for me, especially the fact that having people I can talk to, ask questions and learn more based on that method. So I'm very grateful for it, and I appreciate it.
All right, good to have you on board, Jordan, and thanks for joining us today, mate.
Yeah, man, no problem.
All right, so there's a Zoom user, right? I've seen it before. Seen it in my business meetings. I've seen it in classes. Not sure who it is. However, welcome Zoom user. Can you introduce yourself, please? Who's that Zoom user? I wonder if it's him. I think it's you. Andre, is that you?
No, it's not me.
Is that you?
No.
All right, so Zoom user. I keep calling it.
Zoom user, we prefer if you change your name, you Zoom your handle.
Or maybe they're just there for support. Any problems you're having with Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, all right. So that's our support team, apparently. So all right. So I think we skip Nico. Nico, how are things? Wait, he's not here. Nico is not
Yeah, I'm
here.
here. I'm here.
Oh, that's you. Oh, he's. Are you the Zoom user?
No, I think.
It is you. Nico, welcome again,
Yeah,
bro. Yeah,
yeah.
man. Go
Sorry
on.
about that. My mic, they never can't have to give access to the mic. Cause me I use my phone.
No problem, bro. Good to have you,
Yeah,
man. You go through still.
yeah, man, yeah, man. Well, so far everyone, morning again. My name is Nico Swebe. I'm a past student of CMU where I chose Nyla because actually I love technology. When it comes to tech, the whole cyber world, I'm just fascinated with it. Growing up watching the movies, seeing those guys. Well, the movie is fake, but seeing the guys them coding and all that stuff, it just got me interested in like say yo, if I touch a button, me can actually cripple a country or whatever. That whole coding, the whole technology world, I just love it. But I would like to gain enough so I can give back to my peers. Cause growing up, kid, I love seeing kids being striving and I like to see them trying. So me learning this, maybe I can teach a few persons to make a difference in this country because I read a lot about how powerful Jamaica is, and the last thing, well, it's not something to brag about, but the first Jamaican to rob the most secured bank was at Jamaica. And it's the first person to rob the most secured bank was at Jamaica. Me I say, yo, Jamaica is really talented. Cause the first man to actually hack a Swiss bank, nobody could do it. The first person to do it was a Jamaican. Them give him a job. Some CIA or FAI have him locked down, but them give him a job based on his skill set. So I'm saying if we can put Jamaica up on the map, not for negative stuff, but build
Not
the
for
brand of Jamaica one by one is a plus for me because people look down on our country and say they don't see much about us, but we little but we talawa. We're better than most people and most countries. It's just people just don't believe in us or don't trust us because the media spell the bad news about Jamaica. The negative stuff are not the good.
I like. Nico sound like a Che Guevara, like you plan for conquer the world. I like it, Nico. I like it. I like it. Share your truth. You have a goal, you have a mission. Stick to it. I mean, like I said, not all the bad things we're known for. We're known for a lot of many other good things as well. So, thank you for sharing, Nico, and welcome to the class again, bro.
Yeah.
And as I stated before, Nico is one of the persons that would have joined us physically, along with Roxanne, and I think that's about it on the call today. We have many other persons. We have like a Sheldon White, we have Candice, we have many other people who are not here with us today for their own reason. But based on what I'm seeing, based on I've known a lot of these people on the call before. What they've created so far from knowing nothing at all, I'm kind of blown away, you know. So it's really a humbling thing for me to see that the knowledge is actually being transferred in a manner that is understandable to everyone and to all. So next week, I'm pretty sure we'll be having much more persons again. So I really want to, I've been stalling to be honest, before I dive into JavaScript, because JavaScript is a heavy topic. It's a topic that opens basically Pandora box when it comes down to development. The reason why, because the principles and the coding concept it starts to apply. So you learn about data types, you learn about functions, you learn about different functionalities, object-oriented programming, the different in separation. So I never really want to dive in until we've properly closed the door, where we've accepted X amount of persons, and then we're good to go. However, for today's class, for the persons who are new, I'm going to do a recap, just so everybody can be on the same page, hopefully by next week. So I'm just going to go through everything that we've done so far in the class. For the persons who already know, I'm asking for patience. I'm asking for the trust. I'm asking not to overlook the many that don't know as much as you do. Just a matter of patience, right? So as I stated before, programming in itself, it's nothing complex. It's just like I say, if you know how to paint, if you don't know how to paint, you can learn how to paint, right? If you don't know how to draw, you can learn how to draw. If you don't know how to code, you can learn how to code. So similar to how I can hand you a paintbrush, I can hand everybody in this class a paintbrush and say, paint something from mine. Everybody will paint something different. It's rare you find that somebody or anybody at all will actually paint the same picture because not all of us have the same creativity, not all of us have the same creative prowess, not all of us have the same technical way of thinking, not all of us have the same perspectives. So you find a lot of that is being translated when you're coding. So I just want everybody to keep an open mind. In itself, it's just a lot of syntax. So once you understand the fundamentals of what it's trying to achieve, and you understand the syntax, then you're well on your way to creating anything. I'm going to give you a little story, right? When I discovered programming, I wasn't supposed to do computer science in Cape, right? When I was at Wolmer's. I wanted to be an engineer, so a full-on engineer, mechanical or electrical engineer. And they mixed up my subject, right? They were saying that they gave my subject to a guy that didn't do physics in CXC at all. Bear in mind, I got a one in CXC physics. I got a one in many other subjects, and I didn't get the subjects that I got one in, right? So they mixed up my thing, and they were like, "All right, is that a literature or a comp sci?" I was like, "What do you mean literature or comp sci? What kind of option is that?" It's pretty pissed, right? So I basically take it over the administrative staff. My mom was at the school. She was like, "Che, trust the process, man. Trust the process, right?" I'm like, "Mom, what do you mean trust the process? My whole life is ruined. It's chaos. What am I supposed to do with code and lines and sentences and verbs?" I'm like, "What the hell? Am I supposed to create something with this?" I was pissed. At the time, programming in itself didn't mature as it is as mature today, right? So I was like, "What do you do with this?" She's like, "Try, just give it a try. You never know what the outcome will be." So all right, sure, whatever. I'm not doing literature, even though I was good at it. I was like, "I'm not going to read books for a living. So let me do ComSci." So I chose ComSci, and it took me about 6 months or approximately 6 to 7 months to come to the realization that it might be a calling. So I never pay attention in class. I never did anything. I just go to class with a school face every day. I was like, "I'm not learning anything today, to miss. I'm not learning anything at all. She's like, "Che, just try." I'm like, "Why should I try?" Right? So time passed, and the time was coming down where IAs and I think it was IA at the time. Yeah, IAs were due, and they were like, "Oh, Che, where's the IA? Miss, I'm not doing his subject. You're not getting me to do any work at all. I'm rebelling. I'm a rebel, right?" So she's like, "All right, but if you don't do it, you know you're going to ruin your future, right?" I'm like, "Look at how your future is looking bright." I'm like, "It's what I don't care. I'm standing for my cause, right?" And then when I went to, I told my mom about it. She's like, "Che, why are you rebelling? How do you know that this is not what life has for you?" I'm like, "All right, fine. I'll do it." So I sat up the whole night and I did the IA, right? And then I submitted it. So bear in mind, IAs, you get from the beginning of school year to about the ending of the school year to produce a document or whatever you compile based on what you learn, right? So I ended up topping the school in the IA. So I got the highest in internal assessment. I did it in one night. Bear in mind, I had no knowledge. I did IT in CXC. And trust me, that I never pay attention to. I pay attention to the hardware and everything. And I tapped the school in the IA, and everybody was like, "Whoa, this Croft tapped the school." No, straight. It's like this guy come class every day and I get big trouble and I cuss and this and how the hell him tap it? Somebody must do it. So there was a lot of back and forth trying to verify if the document was legitimate. It was actually written by me. And yeah, I ended up tapping the school and everybody was shocked, blown out of their mind. You have nerds at high school, especially when you go to like a prestigious high school, right? They were like, how dare you get confronted by nerds like, "Yo, you never pay attention to class, you're not supposed to stop the school." I'm like, "All right, well, I did. What are you gonna do about it?" And after that, then I realized, at least, what? I applied for UTech and I applied for UE as well. I applied for UE to do civil engineering at the time, and I applied for ComSci at UTech. And then, well, UTech accepted me and UE accepted me. So, I was confronted with the choices. So I wanted to be an engineer. I got the call in nonetheless. But ComSci, it rubbed me a nice way because I did well in Cape as well. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to try with the ComSci. My mom told me to try. I decided to try. Ended up being a calling because, like I said, everything that I am today is because of programming. Every opportunity that I've gotten in life is because of programming. So it worked out in the end. So that is to say that you never know how good you're at something until you give it a proper try, right? So programming for me was one of those things. For me, it's just a bunch of saying, "All right, this is how I." So my interpretation of it is how I give it to you guys. It's just like I break down things at a very simple, granular level, at a human level, really. So you guys can understand how the things coexist, as opposed to viewing it as something completely different. Because I believe in nature, everything is created from beauty, from love, from compassion, from sharing that interest in it, right? So if you can connect it with that spiritual side of yourself, then you can actually create things of beauty as well. All right, so without further ado, I'm sorry for the chatting. It was like a 1 hour worth of chatting. But nice to meet you guys. It's a pleasure to have you guys again. Just going to go on the board, just to do the recap, right? So I started a class 3 weeks ago to ask a series of questions, right? If I wanted a boy to walk, what would I tell the boy to do? I would tell him to walk, right? So I would say, let the boy walk, for example. Which is just an English. You just turn. Oh, sorry. This guy. I just take the lesson. All right, so all computer science is, or all programming is, you're telling a computer to do a series of tasks using syntax that they can understand. So people are working actively daily to get programming to sentences like these. So let the boy walk. Imagine if you could just say to your computer, play music, like Alexa. Imagine like in Google Home, you can say, what is the weather like today, right? So basic commands, basic search, basic instructions is what you're giving it today, right? But how is it understanding the language? How is it understanding English and converting it into something that it can understand? So fundamentally, everything that we set on the computer turns to ones and zeros. Ones and zeros. So I don't know if you guys have seen the Matrix or any fake programming show, as people say, right? They always type in a bunch of ones and zeros, ones and zeros, millions of ones and zeros, and everything is just coming to life. Screens are popping up. All right, that's his guy. That's his fake. Right? So as a hacker, hackers don't type wildly and chaotic. I mean, you can type well, but all these things in showways, people like boom, 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 screen swapping up, it's fake, right? Hacking in itself is mathematics, computer science, psychology. It's a lot of head scratch. People will sit for days trying to break systems. I remember when, all right, so back in the days, I accidentally hacked it. It's an accident. Trust me, it's a big accident. I did hack it with a Samsung, with a Sony Ericsson phone. I don't know. Sony Ericsson, they have a My Friends app that creates a tunnel into digital backend. The credit system and the credit system, so at any given time, you can run the My Friends app and it pulls the credit back into your phone and give you credit. So at one point I had over $1.3 million in credit and it just expired on the phone. That's why, so that is one of the reasons why they stopped selling Stone Ericsson. If you guys remember one time. So I'm not that guy, but I was a part of that guy. Right? Cool. So fundamentally, it's a set of steps that require patience. And that's what I'm trying to bring home with this point. Programming in itself is just like any other art form. You're painting something, I'm sure Picasso just wake up and just like, and you say, oh, beauty, the painted lady, amazing. No. They put some thought into it. They put something comes alive in them for them to express that creative beauty that is within them. And it's the same for programming. I can tell the boy to walk in many ways. I can say, let the boy walk, or boy, please go and walk. I can formulate the sentences using different flows. But at the end of the day, the boy will walk, right? Same for programming. So you have different syntax, you have many different programming languages. And funny enough, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and a person will tell them to go on a specific quest for this specific language if they want to create something. So there's always a debate in programming world that, oh, learn this language or don't learn this language or stay away from this language because such and such. Trust me, guys, you can learn any language and create anything. It's just that some of them are more difficult than some, right? So, for example, JavaScript is a language on the web. However, I've created backend application using JavaScript, right? I've created front-end application using JavaScript. I've created stylings using JavaScript. I've created web pages just using JavaScript.
Uses this.
It's JavaScript as well. So the radio in your car, your remote control uses JavaScript. Those fine-tuned variables, like you can use any language to do anything. It's just the idea behind it is become a master of what is required for you in that specific scenario and just use it to build everything. It saves a lot of trouble. Trust me, you don't need to learn every language. You don't need to entertain the conversation of, oh, how many languages do you know? It's not a matter. Nobody cares, honestly. Like the persons in the community that entertain the conversation because it's always a big dick contest, right? Basically, who knows more than what? Sorry to use it. Sorry for my reference or my terms, right? But that is all it is, guys. In essence, there will be a lot of confusion when choosing what language to take up. All the matter is how you comprehend it. So for me, JavaScript is more natural. Java, not so natural. I did Java in university as well, but for me, it's the system that out that print line and it doesn't flow for me. I want to talk to the machine like I want to talk to you. So I chose JavaScript because I find that logically for me it makes a lot of sense. Other persons will choose C Sharp because C Sharp have a big community. C Sharp have a lot of support. Microsoft is behind it. They build IDEs every day to compile the language down to machine language, right? So like I said, a lot of chatting today, guys. So like I said, programming in itself is giving the computer a series of commands to follow, and it converts everything that you tell it to ones and zeros. So every language, any language that you might choose to code it, well, the majority of them converts or transpile to ones and zeros. Everything goes back to the machine understanding. All right, so let's go again one more time. So if I wanted a girl to run, I would just tell her to run, similar as you tell a computer to do anything, right? So let's dive into the meat of the matter. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, what are those? All right, so HTML in itself, back in the days, they wanted a way to convert or transfer documents from one point to the next. It was either that or use a hub. We're living in Hogwarts or Harry Potter land. I don't remember the name. Roxanne, can you tell me the name, please? Right? You need to find a way to convert or transfer messages from point A to point B. So if I'm living in the United States, right? I know a lot of persons who were with us from day one has heard this many times. That's why I said, bear with me, guys. The wizard word, the wizarded world. All right, okay, it's very creative. All right, thanks, Roxanne. All right, so I want to create or send a document from USA to Russia. So as stated in the first class, there are many ways to get this done. I can, before the internet, I could send a postal mail, go on a ship, it go to Russia eventually. I could probably train a owl to fly from here to Russia to deliver this envelope in his mouth. I can probably train an eagle. I can do many ways. I can think of many creative ways to send a message from point A to point B. So at that time, they were thinking there has to be a simpler way for us to transfer documents. There has to be a simpler way, right? So we're going to create this thing called the internet for communication purposes, right? So the internet was born, right? And like I said, it's a very high level of the story. If you want to know more, you can go look into it, look a bit deeper, grasp the concept. But like I said, if you understand anything at a fundamental level, you can create everything. If you look at a building, just laying off simple blocks to create an entire skyscraper, or a building, laying off simple glass to create a skyscraper. Understand the fundamentals and understand what it takes to get it through mastery. All right, so I want to send a document from USA to Russia using internet, right? So internet was born for me to send documents from one point to the next point. And today is the very same thing. I'm sending one document to the rest of the world. So if I create a website, this is me taking my document and sharing it with the rest of the world. So similar to how you have a Microsoft document, which is a .x file, or a PDF document, which is a .pdf file, they had to create something that is kind of similar. So they created something called a .html file, right? And with no exaggeration, I'm telling you, HTML is similar to a Microsoft Word document. However, there are just some syntaxes that makes it a little bit different, right? So, all in all, as a United States NASA, as a worker in NASA or a space administrator, I would want to send my document over to Russia. So I created a .html file to be sent over the internet to Russia. In creating my documents, I needed a creative way to read the documents because programming in itself, it doesn't exist independently. Something, it has to run on something. So a website by itself has to be hosted on the internet. A mobile app has to be hosted on a mobile phone or on the app store, for example. Right? So they needed a way to comprehend the languages that they were writing in these documents to make sense whenever it's translated. So they created something you call a browser, right? Open these documents. So a browser in itself, it has grown tremendously. I tell you, back in the days, the browser was trash. Browser was like Microsoft Word without steroids, right? So my sole purpose back in the days for creating a browser was so I can open a document. Just like how my sole purpose of creating Microsoft Word is to create or to open a Word document. I created a browser to open an HTML document. But like I said, nowadays it has grown tremendously. And we'll talk about it more as class progresses, right? So they created their own software using programming languages, of course, to interpret the syntax that was compiled to create the documents that we're trying to transfer, right? Let me just fix this quickly. So all in all, in summary, what a website is a document. So if you're to open a hosting provider, right, for people who are not familiar with hosting, hosting in itself, it's a physical server or a physical computer that lives in a data warehouse, which is just a collection of servers or a computer that makes that information become public. In essence, that's what the internet is. So if you want to convert the internet from something metaphysical to something physical, picture an empty warehouse. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Cinco or any of those companies that has a warehouse. Imagine a warehouse that has a shitload of computers running alongside, and they always have to be making space because the internet is growing regularly to create more data warehouse. So in itself, the internet is a physical thing, right? But it is comprehended metaphysical, right? Because people think it's just a magic thing. I put something on the internet and wow, it becomes public. No, it's just physical computers in a server room, that's what they call it, that is hosting these documents, right? So you're uploading your documents to the web for them to be public. So they'll deal with, there's no magic. Like I said, these things are already configured to work as a connectivity or a connecting unit or as a network. So for those who are doing network, you might appreciate this more. They're operating on a network that is connected globally. So whatever is transferred on a specific computer can be accessed globally. It's just a network, it's just a web, right? So that is why they call it the World Wide Web. It's a web of connection. It's a web of servers that is feeding this document that you created or this compilation of documents that you created to the rest of the world. So not to complicate things, I just give you more insight for persons who were here with us before. But the fundamental of what we're trying to get you to understand, websites are just documents, nothing special, right? Documents transferring from one point A to point B, but point B can be the rest of the world to see, right? So I'm just going to take a deeper dive into what these documents can represent. So these documents can come in many, many forms, right? You have, for example, this is where the conversation about languages come in. You can have a .html file, you can have a .php file, you can have a .javascript file or a .js file, you can have a .css file. So fundamentally, every language you choose to code in will have their own files. Similar to how a PDF file and a Word document isn't the same. These documents have different syntax that they understand. So I can take my syntax from Microsoft Word and then expect PDF to understand it in the same way. So if you realize a PDF, for example, you can edit it, but you have to use specialized software to edit it. The language is fixed because in the backend it's written that you're not supposed to edit this document. It's supposed to be a compiled document. With Word now, we allow more freedom. You can actually edit this document, but in the back, you have to create something that allows the user to edit document, similar to these languages. So for HTML, CSS, PHP, JavaScript, any language that you're familiar with, you name it, you're just creating a series of syntax that can be comprehended by the browser. So let me dive into HTML. I'm going to narrow in a little bit HTML, right? So HTML in itself, like I said, is just another document, right? So we're going to create an HTML document. And just so we're always remembering the fundamentals of HTML, I like to compare HTML to my body, right? My body has a head, right? I'm just going to draw my head. So I'm not the best actually can draw, but I'm just going to draw a stick man today, right? So I have a head, I have the center part of my body, and I have feet, right? I mean, if you want to put a hand, it's a part of my body as well, right? So this is me. right? So how does HTML compare to my body? How does it match up? And why am I using it as comparison? It helps me to never forget. And trust me guys, you will never see it the same way. You won't forget what HTML is, right? So HTML follows a particular structure that nowadays it doesn't need to be maintained, right? But it is good practice for anybody to take it serious in a job that you're applying for as a programmer. You have to at least know the fundamentals or where it starts from, right? So if you don't believe me, I'm going to show you how it matches up, right? So HTML documents, they tend to start with HTML, right? By identifying that this is an HTML document, and as you open anything in HTML, you have to close it. So you have a starting point and you have an ending point. Just like the body has a brain, has a foot, starting and ending, right? We're going to dive a little deeper into the document. So the HTML tags is what you call it in HTML. Each element in an HTML has its own tag, right? So you can create paragraphs using paragraph tags. You can create lists using list tags. You can create tables using table tags. They're all representation of many things. But think of what you can do with a table. Like many people would look at a table and say, all right, maybe we just needed to group a list of data on a spreadsheet. Many people look at a table to say, oh, maybe we can use it as a layout for a page. Many people look at a table to say, oh, maybe we can present a different sets of data in graphs, right? So that is where the creative prowess starts to kick in. That is where people start to do things differently. However, not to stray from the topic, HTML also has a head, right? So the fundamentals of HTML, you start with a head, and as you open things, you close it, because just like a head have a top, has a bottom, it has to stop somewhere. You have to kick in the neck, you have to kick in the shoulder, you have to identify where the stopping point is. So always start with a head for HTML. HTML also have a body, right? So just like I said, all elements are represented in the flavor of tag or in the versions of tag. HTML has a body tag, right? So we're just going to create a body tag here, and we're going to close it here. So we're seeing where there's some similarities. So I know all the time when I'm jumping around my computer to write code, I have my head, my body, and my foot. HTML also have a foot, which is just footer that they call it, right? So I'll call that a footer. And as you open it, that's how you close it. So we're still writing English. These are words that we're familiar with, right? Like I said, the importance behind programming or the better 47 programming is to see how it relates to real life. How can you apply it so it feels natural, it doesn't feel forced, it doesn't feel different. So we're familiar with HTML because we have a head, we have a body, and we have a foot up, and we have a foot, right? And we have a foot up. Ha, that's funny. All right, so this is where people tend to run away now. Guys, we're still writing English. Body, head, foot, HTML. These are just English statements you're familiar with. However, there's this intricate thing about HTML that forms its syntax, that the way it knows how to comprehend and it knows to understand whatever you feed into it. So this is where you have greater than and equal signs, right? I'm going to put these in red, just to separate them from English, right? So open, greater than sign, less than sign. For the head, open, greater than sign, less than sign. Still writing English, but we're just putting greater than less than signs around it, right? For the body, greater than, less than signs. For the footer, greater than and less than signs. So everything, the English statements are encompassed between greater than and less than signs. However, there has to be a way to differentiate what is open from what is closed. So me as the browser need to know when to stop seeing this as a body, when to stop seeing this as a paragraph tag. So I don't overlap my style into a table, right? So I need to put a stop to things, or a stop to that container that I've created. So it's similar, right? The only difference between an open tag and a closed tag is this, right? So greater than and less than sign. However, beside the greater than sign, I'm going to put a backslash. That's the only difference. Still writing English, but greater than less than sign with a slash. That's all. That's the only difference between an open tag and a closed tag, right? So we've opened the body tag, we're going to close it similarly. Greater than, less than sign, close, right? Open the footer tag, we have to close it. Greater than, less than sign, slash. HTML, we open the document, we have to stop somewhere, or else the computer can lose its mind. And remember, the computer is not smart, you're the one that's smart. You're the one that's filling it with information, so it's just following your command, right? So greater than, less than sign, backslash. So now we have a brilliant starting point for HTML. In every HTML document that you'll ever create, you'll have most, if not all, of these things. So every time you start in HTML, it's all right, what do I need? Head, foot. Well, every time I open an HTML document, I have a head, I have my body, I have my foot. Head, body, foot. Always starts with that. And when you start with that, people say, this guy might know what he's doing. Let's see him create now, right? So here we're going to dive into more of the nitty-gritty. So, like I said, HTML in itself is represented by tags. So if I wanted to create a paragraph in HTML, I'll probably need a paragraph tag. However, is it a paragraph tag? Is it written out as a paragraph tag? Similar to how the foot was called footer in HTML as opposed to foot. So these are where the funny parts of syntax comes in. But if I was to Google search that now, I would say, I want a paragraph tag in HTML. What would I find? I'll find something that looks like a P, right? So they have a P tag in HTML, and as you open the tag, you close it, right? And if I wanted to create a table, I'll just use a table tag, open bracket, close bracket, and I'll close it. So like I said, there's nothing to it. It's things that you're familiar with. As long as you know what you're looking for, you'll always find it on the internet, right? So I'm just going to give an overview of the attributes or the different things that are connected to HTML that you can experiment on, right? So inside each of these tags, so I'm just going to zoom in on the tags now. So let's zoom in on a body tag for lack of creativity on my part. Somebody's coming in. All right. So for lack of creativity on my part, I'm just going to zoom in on a body tag, right? So inside of a body tag, I can do many things. It have different attributes. Just like your body has something inside it. They probably have intestines, they probably have stomach, they probably have a heart, probably have ribs, they have lungs, just to name a few. Elements inside of HTML will have their specific attributes. And some of these attributes are like ID, for uniquely identifying the element. You have class, for grouping of elements. You have style, and I'll give you guys a run through on my computer once I'm through with the high level stuff on the board, right? So you guys can have a better appreciation. So each of these unique attributes does something unique. Your heart pump blood, your stomach digests food, intestine plays a part in that. Your lungs breathe in and out, consume oxygen, reduce carbon dioxide. I think that's correct. Don't kill me. I'm not a scientist, right? So each of them have different things. So ID, for example, will allow me to identify my tag. A class will allow me to identify amongst a group of people or a group of elements. And style will allow me to apply some style to it. And as we're speaking of style, let's transition into CSS, right? So CSS in itself stands for Cascading Style Sheet. And as the name suggests, it's just a style sheet because back in the days, right? As I'll show you on my computer after this, writing a simple Word document using HTML was hell. It never looked pretty. You never look at the website that we're doing to date. It looked like a Word document. You have your bold tags, you have italics, you have probably have a one table, you probably have some couple of things, but it was always linear. It was always following one order. There was no structure. It's not as beautiful as the websites are today. Back in the days, I just wanted to send a message to Russia, press the red button. That is all I want to send. I never want to send them a picture. I never want to send them no image laid out to the right hand side. I never want to create a website online. I never want to create my resume online. I never want to showcase my business online. It was secret stuff. I just want to share messages, right? So they didn't have anything to style HTML, right? They had just raw elements. So CSS was introduced because people say, oh, you know what? Maybe instead of sharing documents privately, we can make everybody share documents. I'm probably getting them in business and collect some information on them. That's for Nico, right? So it allows you to style your HTML page from a raw Word document. Just imagine, how many things can you really do in Word? There's only a limit, right? You want to apply style, you probably call a Photoshop guru or your designer and say, apply some style. That's how CSS jumps in. So CSS say, you know what? Let's add some life. We're making it public. We can't keep sharing these convoluted looking documents. They look plain. They look like Word documents. That's terrible, right? So we're going to introduce the CSS file. So CSS in itself is represented by a .css file. However, before we get into the .css file, they tried many ways to incorporate CSS into HTML. So the first attempt, which is inline CSS, is where they use the style tag as mentioned before. So just creating my body element again. So body, they created a style tag now, alright, with business. We can make the body look like something now. So style tag, and this is where it gets tricky, guys. I'm not going to pay much attention to the syntax because I want you guys to understand. All we're typing is words. Once you know the words and where they apply and how they apply, then you're in good place, right? So I'm capitalizing on my style tag now to make CSS be applied to my body. So I want to change the color to red, right? How would I change my body tag to red? So CSS by itself follow one fundamental principle, right? You have the thing that you're referencing, right? Which is the attribute. So an attribute can be color, right? But we're trying to change the color. So you have an attribute, you have a colon. Like I said, these are just sit, guys. Don't make them colon and full stop and greater than sign fool you. I just English here right, right? Once you know what the colon for go, just remember say English is color and the color is red. See? So just like you have colon, you put a red here. So all when you write in CSS, that is all you need to remember. The attribute that you're trying to apply and the value of the attribute. The colon comes between. So attribute and the value. So if I wanted to change my body to adapt the color red, I'll use my style attribute and then applying my CSS now, I'll just say color colon red. So like I said, I'm not going to pay much attention to syntax on the board. I just want everybody to understand that we're still using English, like English statements. We're just being bombarded with a lot of syntax all over the place. Their rules, that's why they have certifications for different programs, because they want you to pay attention to the syntax. And syntax can make or break an application, right? So I'll just say my body, I want it to be styled as color red. So I read things like sentences when I'm coding, right? So I say I want to turn my body and I'm going to apply a style which is red. So this is inline CSS. I put it on my body tag and I'll put it on any tag that I want to apply some CSS to. However, as I will show you the example, it tends to get convoluted. Things get messy. The HTML document starts to, every tag starts having their own styles. It's hard to keep track. Everything starts getting wayward, right? So let's say, maybe we need to rethink this thing, Maybe we can put the CSS in there, or we can create a CSS tag, Eureka, right? So I have tags, I have head tags, I have body tags, I have foot tags, I have table tags. Why can't I have a style tag? Why do I need a style attribute, right? And this is what you call internal CSS now. So this is dropping CSS in the whole document as opposed to on a specific element. So we're still in our HTML file, right? But we're trying to put style to our HTML page. So now we're going to create our style tag. As I stated before, there is a style tag, right? And as you open the style tag, you have to close the style tag. That is a rule in HTML. So I said these are the rules that scare people. When you open something, you close it. Just like some language might have a semicolon ends a sentence, as opposed to repeating what you wrote, right? So they decided to create a style tag now. See? So style tag by itself is an independent tag, and it's a container, just like the body in itself is independent, the footer is independent, the head is also independent. Style tag have its own container. And this is where things get nice, right? So I'm going to write the same English statement that I just wrote inside my style tag. So I'm going to write color, colon, red. Because the objective here is to make the body tag red without applying it directly or inline with the element itself. So I write my color, colon, red. which means that I need a way to find or identify my body tag inside of my style tag for it to get that color, right? So this is where CSS gets big, but it can stop there, right? Let's stop it there. So I need a way to reference the body. So I'll write my body tag inside the same style tag, right? I'll write body because body is the tag I'm referencing. And then I'll have an open curly brace. Like I said, just syntax, guys, is just English was still right. And then we have a closed curly brace. Because in web development, they have this concept where once you open something, just close it. You open a sentence, you need to stop it somewhere because the computer is not wise enough to know when to stop. It will continue into your paragraph and applying tables to paragraph. Like what? It goes crazy. So guys, and that's a point I want to touch on before I go further. Programming in itself, if you're all right, if you have an ego, you probably need to just reduce it a little. Blame yourself first before you blame anything else. So if something doesn't work the way you expect it to work, it's you. Believe you, before you start saying, oh, this brother is talking rubbish, look what you might have done. And I'll tell you a story. I remember one time I was talking about for about 3 to 4 months, right? I was like, no way, this is not compiling, this is rubbish. And it was a humbling moment for me, and trust me, because I was furious. Because I got the thing from the internet. I was like, all right, copy and paste everything. Women forward, it's supposed to work, right? Copy and paste the code, apply it to my code. Then for 4 months, all right, guys, there's no way this thing is working. Revamp, turn it around, change it, change it. The thing does not work, right? And then another person come by and say, you know, let me see the code because you've been stuck on this for a while. I think it was Xavier who come by. Yo, check, give me the code, I'm gonna see where you're right. And the man go through the code and said, done. You didn't see how Mr. Semicolon dog? just alright. Just imagine me at HTML code, right? And me left off a greater than an equal sign. The whole thing broken up. The whole thing breaks, right? And Xavier was able to come by and find the error in my code. And I was there cussing everybody else like this is supposed to work. So it was humbling for me because from that point I started looking within and I realized that it's a thing. You're giving the computer instructions. The computer only takes what you give it. If you give it wrong instruction, it's going to behave wrongly. Like you're going to have bugs, you're going to have flawed applications. The instruction is given by you. The computer is not intelligent, right? AI is a thing, but AI in reach far. AI still a baby step. Trust me, AI is nowhere. People that way is nowhere. I know says anyone want to debate this, it is nowhere, guys, right? Yeah, I agree, right? All right, so AI is nowhere, right? So computer is not intelligent enough to say, maybe she left off that syntax at that point. Let me correct it because it's supposed to be there. No, take a panic, throw some red. Oh, panic, panic, error, 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 I can't compute. It take a panic because it's just looking to you its master to supply with some syntax. So that is to say, sorry to stray, right? But we open our style tag and now we're going to close our style tag. So how would that? Greater than sign, less than sign, greater than sign, less than sign, but we're closing it so we'll put the slash. Cool? So now I have my body tag here, which is directly referencing my body tag. So this will then take the concept of this. But can you imagine, right? I'm writing different syntax beside HTML inside an HTML file. Things are going to get messy because when you start to apply style, you realize that your style tag has increased dramatically to probably overpower all the HTML code that is supposed to be there. And as far as I know, I open an HTML document, so why is CSS in my HTML code? So they're saying, let's go back to the drawing board. This probably is not the method. Let's create a .css file and separate things. All right, let's try that method. All right. So we're going to go inside our CSS file now. So let's remove the style. Style tag is taking up too much space. It's too much CSS here. I need to write HTML. I need to focus. So in my CSS file now, I'm going to do the same thing, right? I'm going to apply a color red. Color, which is the attribute colon, and the value, which is red, right? And this looks clean. I need to reference the body tag as I did before. So I'm referencing the body tag, so I'm just going to write body, right? Open curly brace, close curly brace. I'm opening, so I need to stop it. I need to close it, right? But wait, we're not in the HTML document anymore. So we need a way to reference a CSS document, right? So now we'll move from a style tag that is this large to a link tag because we're trying to link my HTML code or my HTML document to my CSS document. right? So now let's see what it looks like. So I wrote my CSS file, right? Applied my style, and I need to reference my HTML or reference my CSS from my HTML. So let's create a link tag, right? So inside my link tag, I have access to different attributes now, right? So I might want to look for the location of what I'm looking for, what I'm trying to reference. So there's this thing called, there's another attribute, href, right? And as I said, them could choose right out reference in them, but them choose href. Who knows why them choose it? Let's just use it, right? So href, as opposed to writing out reference. Okay, it's longer, it's lengthy. I mean, let's shorten it. Href. If you don't know it, you just don't know it, right? So href to my CSS file. So let's say we call the CSS file style.css, right? I need to reference my style.css file. So href style or equals to, that's the syntax, don't worry about it. Hold on. Answer, hang on, look, you know, a lot of things going on. All right, so style equals to style.css file because I'm referencing the CSS file. Beautiful, right? So imagine this now, right? Where I'm going to close the tab because open it. This is one line of code for probably thousands of lines of code that is inside the CSS file in my HTML document. So in my reference, I can remove, so the degree of separation, the cleanliness, the thing that I'm looking for is HTML code. I don't want to go in my HTML code and be seeing the CSS file. So this follows the precedence of referencing other CSS file, which is outside of HTML code. And that is to say that the name of this method or way of referencing CSS is external. So just to recap the different ways you can use CSS, and even though they brainstorm and they rethink it, and they applied it as best practice, there's no rule that says you can't do it the way that it was done before. So you can still use inline CSS, which is writing inside the tag using the style attribute. There is internal CSS, which is the creation of the style tag, right? Where you put the CSS inside the style tag. And for the external reference, which is external CSS, you just use the link tag to reference the CSS file. All right, beautiful. So let's write some code because I realize time is of the essence. But in essence, guys, HTML in itself is a raw Word document with no styles, no beautification done. So some genius came over and said, hey, let's create CSS to let beauty flow because this is now becoming a public document. It is hard for people to be referenced in a Word document. Just imagine a Word document on the web. Well, I don't know when some of you guys born, but in 1992, if you use them, them website back in the days, they're kind of difficult to use. You know what I mean? Just like it's a link, probably mostly an image or nothing of sorts, right? Nothing else there. But look at it. Look at what websites are today in comparison to 1992. I think there's a website called Time Machine that I'll send in the group after we're done, where you can look at websites before they became what they are today. So you see when they were what they were like Amazon.com, what it was before to what it is today. And bear in mind, technology changes. The browser has to become more intelligent. So they start incorporating things like V8 engines. I don't know if you guys are familiar with but Chrome V8 engine. I think Firefox uses Thunderbird. They have different engines to power. So they realized they needed more power to drive development, to drive people's creativity, to interpret or to translate these documents that are being created. Right? So let's, like I said, I was talking a lot. Let's get into some code, right? And like I said, the importance of this is really to bring everybody back up to speed or up to speed of where the class is. So I'm just going to share my screen. Let's confirm that Andre gave me permission to. I think everybody should be seeing my screen. Let's close that, close this, close that. I'm not using mails today. I'm not using iTunes Music either. All right, so I'm just going to open Visual Studio Code. So in the documents that you guys might have gotten, all right, for the newcomers, there are some documents inside there. I got it? All right, so it tells you about different editors that you can use, right? You have editors like Atoms, you use Notepad++, you use Notepad. You use Visual Studio Code, which is my personal favorite. I'll tell you why soon. You have Sublime Text, just to name a few. But editors are really where you write the code. And in a sense, like I said, we're writing in documents. So anything that can edit documents, you can probably consider using it and saving it as a .html file. So as I stated before, Visual Studio Code is my personal favorite because Visual Studio Code is very lightweight. It's supported by Microsoft, which is one of the biggest tech companies in the world. It also allows you to put on or apply extensions to further its help as you code. Because I tell you, guys, coding in itself is just a pencil. Somebody has done what you've done before. Use up the references of the internet. It saves you a lot of time, right? So let's go through the lesson. All I'm going to do, I'm just going to recreate everything that I did on the board, just so we can see how it look in coding work, right? So just inside Visual Studio Code, I'm just going to delete this folder. I'm going to create a folder on my desktop. Excuse the mess inside Nyla class. Top secret stuff, right? So I'm just going to call this folder class, right? Class stuff. I like to use the word stuff, right? And I need to open this entire folder inside my editor. Bear in mind, guys, this is not programming, this is navigating through documents. This is just documents, right? So Nyla class, creating class stuff. And inside class stuff, I'm going to create a .html file, right? So this is one of the reasons why I love Visual Studio Code is because I can now open a new document or a folder, right? Let's just look for that document that was created. Desktop. We said Nyla class and we created some class stuff. Like I said, just another folder, right? I'm going to open it and it's supposed to be blank. So I'm inside the folder inside the editor, which is pretty cool because it saves me from having to probably create a file here, save it as a HTML file. I can do all inside my editor. So look at this now. Look at this cool. Look at the beauty of Visual Studio Code. Not trying to sell it heavily, but it's pretty cool, right? I can create a new file by clicking this icon. And if you hover over it long enough, you'll see that it says new file. I'll create it and I'll call it index.html. Save, boom. It is a document, so I'm still writing inside of a document, right? But naming conventions is that you use index as your primary HTML file. So everybody knows this pattern. Everybody can understand. Everybody, right? Because human beings in itself like commonalities, things that are familiar with them. So index is that reference point. So let me show you another beauty of Visual Studio Code. I can type exclamation sign and press tab, and it starts a full HTML outline for me. So as I stated on the board, I'm not going to use this, but I'm just showing you the beauty of the tab. I'm just going to write it out myself, just so everybody can be on the same page. HTML in itself starts with HTML, right? So let me not write that yet, but I'm going to write HTML. And the editor automatically closed it for me. So I open my HTML tag and I closed it, right? This doc type thing at the top here is for older HTML files. It's no longer supported. If I remove it, things will work just as fine. But it's just a part of the best practice today, just in case somebody's unfortunately running Internet Explorer 1 or older version of Internet Explorer, right? So I'm inside my HTML tags. And as I stated before, you have greater than signs, I have less than signs. A greater than sign, I have a less than sign. However, to close it, you have a slash. That is the only difference between an open tag and a closed tag. And if you realize my editor was built to understand it that way because there's no reference in the closed tag by highlighting it. So I highlight my HTML tag and it detects where the closing tag is. And you see, as we develop further, it does the same thing for all the elements or the tags. So I'm just going to press enter. That's a lot of noise. Sorry about that. I'm just going to create a head tag, right? And all I'm doing right here, I'm writing English, and my browser or my editor, sorry, is doing everything else for me. So I'm using tab for it to auto generate it. So type in head and I press tab. It does everything else for me. So it saves me from writing the greater than sign, less than sign, greater than sign, backslash. I'm just writing English statements and pressing tab. So I have a head tag, and now I want to create a body tag. I'll just write body and press tab. It creates it for me. But you realize it sticks to the fundamentals that I was expressing, that as you open a tag, you need to close it. And let's test foot as well. So foot, it also knows that I'm writing a footer. So it's intelligent enough to know the syntax of HTML, and I'm just going to write it out, right? So here we have our basic layout of HTML. Head, body, foot. And for those who are wondering, I'll get into it later, if HTML in itself can run without everything here. Yes, it can. You can just write a body tag, you can just write a paragraph tag, and the browser identify, because browsers nowadays are intelligent, they're getting wiser, they're getting more developed, they're getting more granular. So they're better understanding, and certain protocols you don't necessarily need to live by. However, as a good programmer, if you're going to apply for a job tomorrow as a programmer, and they say, okay, write some HTML, and you just start with head without an HTML tag, they probably won't give you the job. They'll probably look at you and be like, you don't understand this thing. However, it can work without it, as we'll show, right? So let's say we want to put a paragraph on screen. What I'll usually do, I'll navigate to my browser. And for those who aren't familiar with programming, I'll probably say paragraph tag in HTML. Nice. It already auto-generates what I'm looking for to show you that you're not the only one looking for it. One reputable source that we also applied inside the document as well is W3 Schools. So I can click W3 Schools, and they're saying that, oh, a paragraph is marked up as follows. Okay, I'm seeing a P where it's open, and I'm seeing a P where it's closed. Nice. Looks like a paragraph tag, but if I'm not sure, let me try it for myself. Click try it for myself. I realize that to the left hand side is where I have the code. And if you guys realize they're following the principles, HTML, body, the body and the header and everything is optional, as I stated before, but they're following the same protocol where they have the container doing the work to categorize the items. So I'm seeing a multitude of tags here. I'm seeing paragraph tags, I'm seeing H1 tags. What does those things represent? So if we look to the right-hand side, we realize that the p tag element word is in a different format or structure than this is a paragraph. So HTML itself had default stylings, right? But it wasn't enough, hence why they introduced CSS. So they had a way to differentiate between the different elements. However, the focus here was for us to get a p tag. So let's move away with the p tag, right? We're going to copy and paste the entire thing and paste inside my document. So this is a paragraph. And then I'm going to save it, just using Command S or Control S for those who's using Windows. But if you want to save it, you can press File and just press Save. But I use a lot of shortcuts because it streamlined my development process. So now we have a website. Oh, no, we don't have a website? Yes, we do have a website, because this is fundamentally what a website is. And I'll show you. So I'm just going to navigate to the folder and look at that. I have an index.html file created for me from the editor. So it saved me a lot of trouble as opposed to creating it here, having to open it here. I just created it and it's recorded inside of my file system because it is file. So I'm going to double tap this and Chrome opens it into a browser. And this is a paragraph similar to what we wrote here. This is a paragraph. However, there are many ways to write this. This is a paragraph. So let's change this H1, this paragraph tag, to a header tag, which is called H1. Like I said, it's just syntax, right? I'm going to save this. I'm going to refresh. Let's see what happens. Whoa, it changes the size. The magnitude of the paragraph itself has been changed, right? Because it's now between totally different tags, right? So we were speaking on referencing tags and CSS and how it applies. So I spoke to you guys and said that there are different attributes such as ID, right? There's class, right? And this is how it will fit inside of the element. So for the example on the board, we edited the body tag to look blue or have a color at the back. We're just going to do it for the H1 tag just so it can be cleaner, right? Because if we were to apply a style to the body, it will take over the entire page. We want to keep the focus. So let's say we want a CSS style applied here that has the color red. So what I'd usually do as an experienced developer, I might not look up style, but many other complex terms in CSS, but I look for CSS color change or CSS color attribute or tag or something. I'm not looking for something, but I'll just type it away how I understand it. But Google is smart enough because like a lot of time has been spent on the search engine or the algorithm for the search engine for it to comprehend more complex things that is fed to it. So I go to W3 school, which, as I said before, it's a proper, it's a nice reference to reference anything you might need or the list of attributes or things existing in CSS. And as you can see, it's a whole lot. Can you imagine somebody knowing all of this? It's impossible, right? So they expect you to use the internet. They expect you to know it. They expect you to know the fundamentals so you know exactly what you're looking for. So let's go over to exactly what we're looking for, right? So I'm seeing a bunch of CSS applied here. Whoa, seeing body color red. Oh, I seen color. All right, let me scroll some more. All right, but I'm looking for the property color. Maybe that is exactly what I'm looking for. However, W3 school might have a way of getting it done. So let me try it for myself to see what that looks like. Oh, nice. I'm seeing red text, I'm seeing green text, and I'm seeing blue text. So let's go to my left hand side. So remember, there is many ways to reference a CSS file. Remember I told you that there is a CSS tag which is called style. And this is a little messy, so I wouldn't focus too heavily on it. We want to focus on doing it in line, in reference to this HTML tag. So I'm going to show you guys something, right? I'm going to remove this CSS from this file that is referencing it, and I'm going to run it. And you realize my header tag has been changed because what we did was remove this color code. And bear in mind, just to touch on this point, not to stray too much from the topic, you can choose to write red or you can choose to write it in hexadecimal. Don't worry about it too much, just stick with red, right? So we're just going to change that to red, or let's change it to black. When we run it and it turns to black, right? So what is happening here is this is referencing this H1 tag, which is this H1 tag inside HTML code. And as you can see, things are getting a little messy, but I don't want to stray. We came for color, so let's just get the color and go, right? Color, we confirm that this is the one that is changing the color for this tag. So we want to copy and paste this. So let's zone into the style attribute. So I'm typing style, and as you can see, my editor already knows that a style thing exists. So I'm just going to press tab for it to automatically create the syntax for me. So this is to exaggerate on the point or emphasize on the point that knowing syntax isn't everything. The browsers themselves or the editors themselves knows the syntax by heart. They know it by hand, right? But you need to know an idea of the syntax that you're looking for. So remember, we'll copy and paste the color red, right? So we're just going to copy and paste that here. So as I stated before, it follows the same flow or the same pattern. You have the attribute, which is color, you have a colon, and you have the value. Attribute, colon, value. So I'll just show you guys what that might look like. I'm just going to change this color to red, and I'm going to save it using Command S or Control S, or you can go to File and press Save, right? Let's go back over to our website that we're creating. Because funny enough, it is a website. It's just a document that we're saving, right? So let's refresh. Wow, it turns to red. So the style has now been applied. There is no way to do it with HTML by itself. So they had to introduce a style tag to get it done. But just imagine this, right? I'm just going to duplicate this HTML file or this tag to resemble many other things. All I'm doing, guys, I'm just recreating H1 tags just to show you how things can look messy as time progresses, right? Just going to save it here. Just going to refresh. And as you see, I just created a bunch of paragraphs. I just created a bunch of header tags. That's all I'm doing. All I did was copy and paste. However, look at how this file is starting to look now. Things are looking messy. I'm starting to see a lot of CSS syntax overriding my HTML syntax, and I'm in an HTML file, and I just it looks messy. I need to clean up things a little. I need to have that degree of separation, right? So I'm going to invent something called a style tag, perhaps, right? So inside of my header file, or inside of my head, let's just confirm that at W3 schools because they did it. So you realize that the style tag can live somewhere, which is inside the head tag. So the head tag in itself has its own purpose, even though most of the work takes place inside the body. The head tag fundamentally is used for referencing and applying labels to the top of your tabs here. So I'll show you guys what I mean by that, right? So right now, we're on our website. Let me just close up some of these things because I had a lot of things open. Right? At the top, you're seeing index.html file. This is, can you imagine if I saw Nyla software engineering class and I'm seeing a .html file up here? So it's not proper for user experience. Me as a user, I don't know what an index.html file, but I know what Nyla software engineering class is, and I know what WhatsApp is. So maybe there's a way to get it up here. Where would I reference that point? Right? So maybe I can create a title thingy or a title tag, sorry, and call it something more relevant, such as first class or as the document stated, class stuff, right? I'm going to save it and let's see what happens there. Refresh, and you realize index.html has been removed. It's now saying class stuff at the top. So the header in itself, you realize that it serves its purpose and it's needed for certain and certain things, right? Just like how the body tag in itself is needed for some things. Similar to the footer, we'll get deeper into that as time progresses, right? So now refresh again, we're still seeing this laid out things, but the problem was our CSS file is kind of, our CSS is kind of intruding on our HTML code and it's a little messy. So I want to probably create a style tag, right? So let's see if there's a style tag. Style tag oh wait, there is one. I'll just press tab for the browser or editor, sorry, to do the work for me. So now I want to convert or transfer this CSS code into my style tag, right? And what we reference is an H1 tag. So how would we go about doing this, right? So if I go back to W3 schools, I did type color, right? I did say color CSS tag or CSS code. You can call it anything you want to call it. You'll probably find the right things, right? So CSS colors is probably what we're looking for, not necessarily. But let's look to the left to see if there's a color thing. Oh, there is color. Nice. So color is there. I wanted to try it myself. They've done the style approach as we're taking. And I realized that to reference their H1 tag, they had the name of the tag, they had a curly brace, and they closed a curly brace. Nice. This is exactly what I'm looking for, right? So I'm just going to do the same thing in my style tag. So H1 is the attribute I'm targeting or the tag. Open brace, oh, it closes it for me automatically. See, you see that the principles are there. The editor in itself knows best practices. And they are best practices because anybody in the world that takes a big code will probably be looking for these things. So I open my curly brace, it automatically closes it because it knows that once it opens something, it has to be closed, right? So now we want to turn our H1 into color red. So I'm just going to copy out the CSS part because we're just focused on the attributes, the colon, and the value. Nice. All right, so we have something here. So why do we still have it here? It's so messy. Can we really genuinely remove it? Let's see. So let's get rid of this style tag, right? And there's also a way to quickly do this. So I'll hold down an option, click there, I'll click there, I'll click there, I'll click there, click there. So you realize as I click, they're creating different indent points or point of thing that you type. I don't remember the name of it. And as I backslash, everything magically goes away. Right? Don't worry about the top part, it's just getting messy. So I'll just fix that up a little. Give me a second. Let's move on body tag. It was there before. Closing that out. Clean it up. Let's clean up things a little. Removing this paragraph tag. Those causing a little mess. And look at this. Another thing why I like an editor. I can right click here. I can press format document or I can format with because I have many formatter. And I can just say HTML language feature. Boom. It's back to normal. Everything is organized. Everything follows a pattern. All right. So we're seeing here now that inside of our style tag, we're referencing the H1 element tag and we want the color to be red. Will this truly work? Let's see. So I'm going to save it using Command S. As I stated before, you can choose File to press Save, right? And let's go back to the document that we're creating. Class stuff, refresh, refresh, refresh. It's red. Is it really working? I'm not sure. I'm going to change the pink, right? Some other color, right? And as you see, as I write color, you realize that it predicts the type of color I'm writing. So I changed the pink. All the colors have been changed to pink. But look at how easy that was. Imagine if all the colors were applied to the different H1 tag. You have to go through, change all of them back to pink. It's very tedious, but no, I'm just referencing one thing. I apply the concept or the rule that all my H1 tag I want it to be blue. I'm going to change all of them to blue. Save and refresh. Wow, all of them turn to blue. One line of code, one singular edit. However, I'm here. I can appreciate that my color is blue and it's a little cleaner. I mean, color blue is not written all over the place. However, I'm still seeing CSS code in my HTML code. It's annoying, right? And as I said, this is internal CSS that's being used to create the style. Let's rethink this, John. I don't think we have it correct here. So I probably want to create a .css file, right? So let's create a file. Remember, to my left-hand side, I can just click on this button, and I'll call it style.css, right? Because I don't want CSS inside my HTML. I just don't want it. It can get very, very extensive. And as I stated before, just imagine having a multitude of styles here, right? It's going to copy and paste it over and over and over again. My style sheet now takes up my entire, before I get into the meat of the matter, I'm seeing a shitload of CSS. So let's move down a little, and I'm seeing my body. I don't want to be seeing that. All I want to see, as I was here to see, right, is my HTML code. But CSS is now bombarding my development. I just don't like it. So let's remove the style completely. No, before I remove it, I just want to show how the transfer is made, right? So CSS in itself recognizes different syntax. Question might be asked, can you write HTML code inside CSS? Yeah, we can. Why not? We can. However, you realize that complaint starts, right? You're realizing that the editor itself is starting to show some red squiggly because this does not belong in comparison to the HTML code, which it accepts it perfectly fine, but it does not belong in a .css file. So I'm going to complain because this is not proper syntax. And I'm expecting a curly brace. Why are you putting this here? It's panicking because I'm telling it to do the wrong thing, right? But what it understands is the CSS code itself. So I'm just going to copy this reference over, Command C, or I can just right click and press copy, right? But like I said, I found ways that work smart for me. So Command A to highlight everything, Command V. I paste that, everything is now back to normal. That CSS file, me as a computer, I'm not going to complain. Highland Grill, bite size, barbecue, not rice and peas, the other rice, and I'm probably pumpkin. No, this is not a policy. Sorry, guys, I'm making an order. So, no, callaloo rice or pumpkin rice, barbecue chicken, breast bite size. That's it. Yeah. Satisfaction, yard style. Make sure you're planting line. All right, respect. All right. All right, sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that. So I'm inside my CSS file, and this syntax feel right at home. I'm referencing the H1 tag, curly braces, attribute, colon, color or value, and then I close it. Right at home, no complaints from the editor itself. And I'm just going to save this. However, I'm going to challenge the editor a little. Let's remove the style sheet and see what happens. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go back here and refresh. Oh my, it's now broken because the plan was to have my H1 tag changed to the color blue. How do I reference my external CSS file inside of my HTML document? There must be some way. Let's check that out. Let's probably type in external CSS tag in HTML. I don't know what I'm looking for. Let's type in something. So I want to add CSS, right? All right, let's click that. I realize there are three ways, as we've been describing before: external CSS, internal CSS, and inline. We all understand what those three things mean, right? So for external now, this is what we're looking for. We realize, let's go through the code and let's try it ourselves because we're not sure exactly what we're looking for. We're familiar with HTML tags. We know head HTML is a thing. We know head is a thing. We know body is a thing. We know what H1 does. We know what paragraph does. There's something unique about this page or this HTML document. It could be that link tag. It's the only thing that's different here. So maybe that's the thing I'm looking for, right? And as you can see, it's also inside the head tag. So the head tag is used for referencing and different things outside of HTML, right? So let's copy this link tag. Like I said, programmers copy and paste a lot. Like I said, the movies where you see a bag of typing, guys, it's fake. People can do it, I can do it, but use of the internet. It's there for a reason. So copy, and I'm going to paste it in. All right, that should work, right? Let's save that and see. Will it work? Refresh. It doesn't work. Why does it not work, right? Maybe I'm referencing the wrong file. Is the name of my CSS file my style.css, or is it css.css or style.css? I think it's the style of CSS. So let me remove my style a little and see what happens. I'm going to save it and refresh. Wow, it's now blue. So now we understand that there's a connect going on with my style sheet and HTML file. Let me just confirm that. I might change this to something, let's trick it a little, maybe green. Never know what's coming, right? I'm going to save my style sheet and refresh. Oh, wait, wow. So it's happening. So there has been a connect here. What form the connect? Is the link file. So let's compare it to what we had before, right? We had a bunch of CSS running down the sheet. We had a style sheet that probably encompassed a multitude of different tags being referenced, right? We can now do a lot of things around here, right? It can get messy. 1,000 line of code can be created. I'm just going to save it. But my HTML file is still so clean and it's just untouched, it's untainted, it's still HTML code. However, I know this is what is going on with my CSS file. I just know that when I go to my HTML code, all I'm seeing is HTML code and it works, right? So just going to undo everything that I just did. To undo, you can press Command Z or Control Z for Windows users. All I'm doing is undoing the copy and paste the whole thing. All right, so let's challenge the style sheet a little, right? I'm going to create a paragraph tag. What's the same thing from yesterday? Yeah, time for come. All right, so I'm just going to create a P tag. Sure, I don't know what the same thing is, but yeah, just say yeah, it's just food, right? So I'm just going to create a P tag here, and I'm just going to write another paragraph. So welcome to Nyla, right? Welcome. Saving this, and let's see how that's affected over here. So nice. Welcome to Nyla, as I stated before, with its own syntax, but we probably want to create a background color for it. So color is one thing, but we need a background color this time. So maybe background color, CSS is the thing I'm looking for. I'm talking English to the browser, but it's understanding what I'm saying, right? So it's saying that I probably need to use something called a background color syntax, which is just another attribute, colon, the value. So I realize CSS seems to follow a pattern, right? So I'm going to copy this, and I want to reference this p tag. However, I might want to have another p tag. How can I change this to pink and change this to red? Maybe there's a way that I need to uniquely identify these p tags. So this is where the attributes come in handy. There is one I call ID, as I mentioned before. Follows the same thing as the style. ID equal that open and curly, open and close quote. I'll call this red paragraph. And bear in mind, this can be any name, right? Red paragraph, sorry, I can't spell. I'm just going to give this an ID of what color did you say we want to make this? Green paragraph, maybe. But use something that another person would understand, right? Think of spell paragraph, right? All right, nice. Let's save this. Let's see what happens. Nothing happened. You just have another paragraph, right? Probably want to give it a more unique name. So that is awesome. Something else, right? I'm going to save this and refresh. All right, so now that is awesome. It's reflected. Nice. However, nothing is happening. I reference ID. No, I'm not seeing any color change. Maybe we need to probably go back to our style as CSS and apply the same reference. All right, so another beauty about the editor is it can do a split screen kind of thing, right? So I can split my screen, I can minimize my left hand side. I just use Command B to do. Like I said, I have a workflow that works for me that is simple and streamlined, right? So I'm seeing my CSS file and I'm seeing my index file all at once, as opposed to going back and forth, right? And if I need more space, just like you anything on your computer, your window, you can small it up a little, just in case you want to make some space, right? So we're referencing this ID. I'm sure it's pretty simple as just writing H1, right? Let's try, right? So the red paragraph, right? Red paragraph, we're going in, we're typing it. We have the curly braces, we close that, nice. So it's looking for a red paragraph. And if we change that to a color, we said we wanted a background color, right? So let's go back to the background color style. Where was that? I think it's here. Nice. Want to use Coral, who knows, right? It's copying and paste. Putting it in there, I'm going to save it. This must work, right? Must work. So the paragraph should be Coral now, which is this orange light looking color. Let's refresh. It does not work. Why doesn't it work, right? Why doesn't it work? Let's check. All right, so this is where the difference in CSS might chip in, right? So CSS have different ways of referencing the different attributes for the HTML tag. So just like we have an ID here, for CSS, it uses a number sign to reference ID. And you see the color change. And for class, which we'll get into afterwards, they use a full stop. So let's refresh, or let's save it, and let's refresh and see if that works. Nice. So we're seeing that the color is applied because now we're not referencing a tag where we can just write it by itself because it was built for the tag. We're now referencing an ID. So there must be a unique way of differentiating between an ID, a class, a tag. Let's say I created a list of p tag again, right? I'm creating a p tag now that says anything. I'm just going to write gibberish. However, I want them to follow the same nature. Maybe want this one to be a part of that class, or maybe want this H1 tag to stand out above the rest. So let me just give some space. It's an outcast now. So we're creating a class of people. So we're going to use another attribute called class, right? Class, like I said, follow the same syntax. You just call the attribute name equal to the quotations, right? So this class is the cool class. Like I said, you can call it any name you want. Cool class, and I want everybody that is cool to be a part of this class because you're going to do cool things with this class. Same for the paragraph tag, same for this paragraph tag. But if you realize they're different elements, but they can still belong to the same class. Maybe I want this H1 tag, this paragraph tag, or this paragraph tag to be associated with each other. Maybe I want something unique for them, right? So let's save and see if anything happens, right? Refresh. Oh, it's overriding. Things are happening. Um, Nothing is happening. The squiggly lines, the gibberish I just wrote is still there. But we want to do something to it. Maybe I'll apply a different background color. Let's copy and paste it again, just in the interest of time. I'm just going to create a class. I'm going to reference the class by using a dot and cool class, because that is the name of the class I'm referencing over the HTML file, open bracket, close bracket, and inside there I'm going to put the background color attribute. And as I type, you realize there are many CSS attributes that you can find, but we're going to focus on the one that we're actually looking for, which is the background color. And as you see the color, the browser, the editor is smart enough to know that you're looking for a color. So it suggests a few color, maybe lime. Let's try lime. Who knows, right? And we're going to save this and let's see what happens. And to refresh, and whoa, we realize that this H1 tag, which is the outcast, has adapted the concept of this background color of lime along with the gibberish because they now belong to their own unique class. So now realize that for IDs, IDs, they're unique identifiers. So proper coding practice or proper programming etiquette is that IDs must be unique. However, classes, they can follow different names, right? They can have the same names along the line of different things. ID by themselves must be unique in itself and in its nature. So I made a statement earlier in the class, right? That websites are just HTML documents and .css files in a compilation. They're just elements in a compilation. So let's look at a very complex website. Let's look at apple.com, right? Apple.com, you guys know it. It probably is built with something special, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's just another document similar to what we are just creating. So this is where the beauty or the power of browser has been demonstrated. So if I right click on any website and I choose to inspect, right? I'll look at my right hand side and I see the code for that specific website. I can make changes in real time to that website if I want to. I understand HTML. We're seeing an HTML file here, and we're seeing a body, and we're seeing a close tag for HTML. This is all HTML code. This is one of this, but in more complex format, in a more creative format. So let's see if it's true. So I'm familiar with head. I'm going to change something in the body. Maybe I want to change an H1 tag. It says Apple somewhere. It says Apple somewhere, right? Let me just change this to see what happens. All right, let me change something that is more visible. I'm going to right click on a specific item that I want to change, which is this iPhone 12 Pro. And as you hover over it, you'll start to see the different parts of the website highlighting that represents the specific thing that you're looking for. So I click that div tag, I'm over this div tag, I'm realizing that some different parts are highlighted. And just to get a better appreciation, let me to a clearer page. I'm just going to right click on something, inspect again, because I just want to reference something directly. So I realized that this leads to iPhone 12, which is an href link, another A tag, which is supposed to lead to somewhere. All right, this side is a little all right, never mind, never mind. All right, I found it. So I'm just going to dig in until I find the area that I'm looking at. So as I'm digging into code, I'm realizing that these are H2 tags alike. This is a H3 tag. This is a div tag. I'm realizing these are just HTML tags, similar to what we were writing. So let's say if that is true. I know that inside a H2 tag, it's just referencing a class called headline, right? And it's referencing or it's writing something called iPhone 12. Hmm. If I change this iPhone 12 to 13, would it work? Yes, it would, because it's just HTML code. And if I want to say my phone as opposed to iPhone, I can change that in real time. It's saying my phone because we're just writing HTML code inside of a H2. Of course, this won't persist, meaning it won't stay the same because this is all being fed from somewhere, right? So if you refresh the page, everything goes back to normal. But this is a nice way to edit things in real time, to mess around a little with sites, to get familiar with the connect. So I'm seeing where there's a class called headline here. That means it's referencing, some CSS is referencing it. Where can I find that? I look a little lower. I'm seeing that there's a styles tab here, so along with many others. And underneath that style tag, I'm seeing many other points. I'm seeing the period here referencing a class. I'm seeing a reference in another class. So this is just a chain links of class. But however, there is a headline class here that stands out on its own, right? Because as you hover over different things, you realize it updates the style sheet automatically because it is relevant. So the headline tag here has a font size of 48 pixels. I want to mess with that. I want to make it bigger. Oh, massive. I'm not going to keep pressing up until it gets bigger. I'm applying the style, I'm messing with the style because it's linked. So this headline thing, as I said before, if I remove everything here, I'm just going to hover over it. It's going to delete some things. I just want to stay relevant. Don't want to get too lost in the class. I'm going to remove some stuff. It might break because, like I said, it has its own significance. But ideally, all that is happening here is a reference to the headline tag, right? It won't work because, like I said, it's a link, it's a chain of classes leading into the headline tag. However, let's refresh the page again. And we're dealing with this, as we say, let's keep the focus on the iPhone 12. I'm just going to click on the H2 tag. And as you can see, we can do anything here. So we were familiar with background color. Let's apply some of our style too. Why not? I have a coral background, I want to change that background color. I want to change the thing and just paste that in. Turn background color into that as well. I want to change the color to green. I can copy and paste what I wrote and I putting it in there and I change it. So I'm updating Apple site in real time while I'm learning. I think I clicked something. Sorry about that, guys. No, not yet. I just I probably changed. I clicked something accidentally or whatever. So inspect element is demonstrating how powerful the browser can be. So let's apply some of these inspect elements to our code as well. Maybe we want to test a few colors with the paragraphs. I'm going to right click on the code. I'm going to inspect it and look at the right hand side. We're seeing all the code that we wrote. So let's compare it to what we just wrote. We have a body tag, we have a head tag, we have title, we have H1, we have paragraph, we have a footer. Let's see if it's the same thing. Well, let's see. We have a header tag, title class stuff, link, body, H1 tags, paragraph tags, footer. So we have it all here. So let's mess it up. I probably don't want all of this. So I'm going to remove it. I can right click on it and I can press edit as HTML. And these are just where it's nuggets, little nuggets. It's not relating to the class. You learn this as they go along. And I can just edit everything that I want here in real time. And it's edited. I want to change the color of my welcome to Nyla. I want the font to be a bit bigger. So as I say, use the internet as your friend, but there's a thing called font size, which it knows as you type. You can apply different sizes. So you can have 34 pixel, which is PX, or you can have rem, or it can have M, and as you can see, all of them have a different value, but all of them can be converted back to pixel, right? So we're changing the font size, making it a little bigger, editing in real time. Things are looking lovely and fine, but let's refresh. Oh no, things went back to normal because we're not editing it directly. This is just a playground that allows you to break your own code without actually editing your code. But let's say you want to save the things that you're editing here. Let's do it again, the exact same thing. Edit as HTML. We're going to remove all of this junk. We're going to just remove it as we were before. I wanted Nyla to be a bit bigger. The font size is 45 pixels, making it large, right? We're making it bigger. All I'm doing right now is just pressing the up button. So I want it to look exactly like this. What do I do? All right, maybe I can just right click on here. That doesn't work. Maybe I can right click on the HTML though. Edit as HTML, and I can copy and paste this entire thing. All right, let's confirm. I'm just copying it right now. I'm going to paste it inside of my document, right? Highlight and everything and paste it. So it's saved, right? Nice. The form was a little off, but as I stated before, right clicking, formatting document with HTML feature, it now beautifies it for me automatically. I'm going to save that. I still want my style to come over because I didn't bring that over, right? We made an edit to welcome to Nyla. The font size, which is red paragraph, which is the ID. I'm going to bring that over because I want my font size. I already made my hard work and edited it. So I'm going to paste it in my .css file. I'm going to save it. Let's refresh. Let's refresh. We'll keep refreshing and it's persisting. So everything that we edited in real time here has been persisted into a real code base. So we're looking at more complex projects. Like for example, if I'm building something, let's say I'm building, let's go on a site that I actually created, right? So if I'm on guest now and I'm editing things, before I apply my coding right now, I would say the woman tag is a bit huge, it's massive, right? I don't like how it fits. I don't like it, right? So I'm just going to hover until I find the exact tag. I know I'm not looking for an image tag because the image is a woman, right? I'm looking for something that has H in it. Yeah, nice. H3 tag. Let's dig deeper because I realize it's span tag and I have women here. So it's a little big, absolute. Might want to change the size a little, Let's look for some font size. All right. H3 is referencing a font size. Oh, nice. So realize I was touching up things a little. I cannot change it. All right. So I want this to persist now. So in my CSS file now, I'll just copy and paste this font size and put it into my CSS file. So like I said, this is how understanding the fundamentals can get into bigger pictures. So all I did was take a compilation of HTML code and I wrote HTML flawlessly as it can be. I have my link tag reference in my CSS file, and as I click my href and I copy this, I can reference something. Maybe it leads to something, who knows? Let's copy and paste it now. It brings me somewhere. And let's say, like I said, the browser in itself has a lot of capability. When we start to write JavaScript code, you realize that you can see how browsers are performing. You can write inside the browser. So let me just clear some things. And let me just need to make some more space. Let's work inside our environment because I like to clean up. There's a lot of things going on with the guest side right now. So if you go to console, it allows you to write things in real time. So let's say I want to add two things. 2 plus 2 equal 4. 5 plus 4 equal 9. I can do a lot of things. Console.log inside my browser to print things on screen. And this is just JavaScript syntax. Don't worry about it. So hello everyone, right? Hello everyone. I can play inside my browser. It's like a playground for me to do anything I want. And you see it print out hello world. So I'm just commanding it to do a series of things. And the browser in itself is so powerful. When you start to work with server-side application, you can track the different files that are being loaded. You can start to see the different things. But like I said, this is for another lesson. And as we progress, you start to see the power of the browser to edit things in real time. You can see how things are loaded. You can stop things from loaded. You can apply speech. You can talk into things and it saves everything, it records everything. But in essence, guys, as I said, the difference between this and this is just my creativity. All I'm doing, I saw a site, the client came to us and said, all right, I want something that looks appealing, something that drives sales, right? Build it for me. And there are many other things, of course, but like I said, I wanted you guys to just appreciate it. All this is if I was to press remember the shortcut. Wait, sorry, too many shortcuts. Too many shortcuts. Source code. The backend source code. Is it command U? What was it again? No, I don't want inspect. I want to show the entire thing in its entirety. I want to show the file.
View source.
Yeah, I want to view the source.
But try looking the what do you call it? The top tab at the top. Let me see.
We're in the top. I mean, I've seen all the code now, but I wanted to see it in a location. I can't remember. Why I don't remember this command. I remember it in Windows.
View source. It's supposed to be there.
All right, there was a view source code. Sorry, guys. This one just left me a little bit for websites. And you can, as you can, command you.
Option command U.
Option command you.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just going to view the backend of this code. So option command you, right? I'm just viewing the code and what it really looks like. So like I said, do not be bombarded by a lot of syntax. A lot of the things that you're seeing might not even be syntax. They're things written by persons just like you and I. So as I would say, if I was to look at a backend for HTML code and I say red paragraph, this is not syntax. This is my word, it's my language. I can call it anything I want. And I might mistake it for syntax. So understanding the fundamental will allow you to not be bombarded with too many things that is unrelated to HTML, which is just a p tag. So understanding the fundamentals is what would drive you understanding many other websites. And as a developer now, what I would do for to start my day, so I want to create something, I'll probably use a theme or a template. So I'll probably say HTML, CSS theme, or I'll probably say template, free download responsive. Responsive is just basically saying I want to create something similar that scales on a mobile phone. And I can show you something as well, right? There's this top left hand thing up here so you can toggle to view it in mobile. So you can see what your website look in a mobile application. So browser gives you that power, right? You can refresh, you can navigate the site to test its responsiveness.
Can choose a phone.
Can choose a different phone, iPad Pro. Let's see what it looks like on an iPad Pro. It's all there, right? The browser has that power now. Before, so let's say you don't have an iPhone to test it on. I should show you, right? So let's say you have an iPhone X and you want to test what your website will look on an iPhone X. Instead of buying an iPhone X, the browser now has that. But think of where the browser is coming from, as we discussed before. The browser translate documents. Now you're doing all of this with the browser. So building on the engines like the V8 engines, you can look up different engines. So browser engines. I'm just giving you guys homework, right? Browser engines, right? You might see the different browser engines and how they work and how they apply. Like for example, the browser that we're using now is Chrome. They use something called V8 engine, which is the thing that powers and give it that power to do more, to do so many things. So me writing JavaScript in the console a while ago was done because the V8 engine allowed me to do that. It powers the JavaScript inside there. So let's go back to what we were focusing on. So this is a backend of guest site, right? This is what the HTML code look like. And as I said, meta HTML is just an HTML tag. Char set equals such and such. It's just attributes. Name is just an attribute. Let's go to something that we're more familiar with. So link, we just did it with style sheets, right? The relation or the type that we're referencing a style sheet and we're referencing this CSS code. So can we truly see the CSS code on guess? Yes, we can. We can click this link and it brings us into a CSS file, right? That has a lot of reference. Like I said, don't be bombarded by this, guys. All we're doing is this simplistic thing in a more complex format as you begin to understand more. A lot of it can be data types, a lot of it can be reference to the developer, or it can be actual syntax. But the idea is break down a website into files. It's all a file, right? What I used to do back in the days when so like I said, it's away from the lesson a little. What I usually do in my security class, I created a thing that calls spoofing or phishing, sorry, right? It's a method that is spelled, let me just spell it out for you guys if you want to do research. But it's just a form of hacking called phishing, right? This is how it's spelled. It's not spelled like typical fish is PH, right? It allows people to enter their information into a website and you can store the information in the backend. So let's say, for example, I wanted to emulate a Facebook site, right? I go to facebook.com and I want some credit card information from you. I can probably just, how we go to the source code again?
Option, command.
Option command U, right? Option command U. Option command U. Sorry. I can go to the back end of Facebook. I can highlight all of this, and I can probably create an HTML file that probably does the same thing. Let's see what it. Let me just copy and paste everything that I just referenced. A lot of breaking might happen because of a very large file. I'm going to save it and see what it might look like. You can mess around. So this is our same Nyla class, but this is Facebook. We have Facebook code base inside our document, index.html file. So I'm not kidding you, right? So I can say, maybe I want to change the email. Well, do I want this to be email? Or I probably want to change something here that says credit card information. Like I said, guys, I'm not teaching you this to screw the world. I'm just saying the power is yours, right? The word of links, right? So I'm just going to right click on this and I'm going to edit the HTML code. And I realize that mobile number is a label and I'm going to change it to credit card information, right? Or credit card number. Just something like I said, I just want to show you how fun it can be. Maybe it's fun to you, maybe it's not, right? And if I change it,
The problem is too.
they did. Oh crap. All right. So let me try to directly change it. Don't worry, man. Forget it. See there. All right. So mobile. So this is hacking, guys. Right? This is my hacking. I'm hacking Facebook site to work with me. So I'm trying many things, right? Based on the little knowledge I have. I know to edit HTML code, and I'm going to change it to credit card. So no, I see credit card has been changed. So imagine you as the developer send this to a friend and say, you know what? This is Facebook. But we want your credit card information. I buy a domain name called probably facebrick.com, right? I trick them. So I think people don't pay attention to Facebook or Faceboard or Facebook 317, right? Or Bookface. And you enter your credit card. So let's say I enter my credit card information. I can have something, a database in the backend, collecting your database. And this is what we call phishing. When I realize it's phishing, when I press sign up, and things start broke, right? I start realizing it's not going anywhere. You already get hacked. You're probably too late. I already have your credit card information, and I'm going to use it. So this is a method that they call phishing. Like I say, if you want to look further into it, um, you can get into trouble with this, by the way, guys. But there's still some benefits to it. So phishing is a cybercrime with target, contact, email, whatever. It's just a way to impersonate a website to look like a website that they're familiar with and collect some information and store it. So if you're wondering how they probably get in contact with that information and such and so. So I'm just showing you guys that all of this is what we've been working with from day one, which is the Nyla class thing. Oh, sorry, we call it Facebook now, right? Facebook, right? Index the HTML file, copy and paste the entire thing from the back, sorry, to represent just HTML code. That's all it is. Another document that you're being referenced and you're referencing. But things get a little trickier when you start to dive into JavaScript. Because like I said, I never wanted to move ahead in the class without closing the doors to new people before going into JavaScript. And that, in summary, is HTML and CSS in a nutshell. And I really want to see what you guys come up with. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I really want to see what you guys come up with. Just use your creativity. Like I said, I can't tell you what to build, which is why for the assignment or the challenge, we're really trying to allow you to use your creativity with the minimum things that we've given you. Use up the resources. We've given you video links. You have W3 schools. And as I say, you can really mess with W3 schools. Let's go to a more advanced topic in CSS. I'm not sharing my screen anymore. Let me just share it quickly before we go. So sharing my screen again. With W3 schools, you can really break some things. You can really go really, really deep. So let's say we want to do something that is more complex. Maybe a grid template. And we don't know what that is, right? But it tell you what it is. So make a 3-column layout grid where first row is whatever height, 150 pixel height. Let's try it for ourselves. Let's see what it really does. So nice. We're seeing that grids are being formed here. Nice. We can start playing around in the environment without opening our browser, our editor, sorry. So let's say I want to mess around with this a little. I understand that this is in a style sheet, which we already discussed. I understand that these are HTML tags. I don't know what a div tag is. Maybe I want to Google it, right? Let me Google it. Div tag, right? Same W3 school div tag. I want to understand it better. Nice. So a div tag defines a division section. I still don't know what that means, right? Show me what it means. I want to go deeper. So what I'm understanding here is a div tag might just be a container that I can probably use to do a series of things, right? Just like the body tag, it's just a container. Not like it's not unique like H1 and paragraph to differentiate size. It's just another container, right? So let me go back to where we were before. All right. So now we understand what div tags are. We understand. We know what class is. We know that class is being referenced. Item one might be referenced somewhere, which it is not. But we have classes here. We're seeing that many things are being referenced, like the grid container, like the grid container, the grid container again being referenced with different things. So let's play around a little. Maybe we want to change something that we're familiar with that might experience a change that we're used to seeing. Maybe 30 pixel can be 1000 pixel. Make it obvious. I want to see it jump out on the right hand side. I'm going to run it. Oh, wow, things change. All right. So I know that this container is affecting this. So I can just
Yeah,
press.
it's nothing.
We not see,
It's saying limit has started screen sharing, but we're not seeing the screen that you're sharing.
Oh, okay. Let me just stop it and share it again. All right, let me just confirm that you guys are seeing it before I go further. Confirm that you guys are seeing my screen.
Yeah, we're seeing it now.
All right. Were you guys seeing it when I was doing the Facebook example?
Yeah, man. But just a
All right.
while ago, it wasn't before.
All right, no problem. Thanks, Damoni. Appreciate that, bro.
Yeah.
All right. So what I was saying is, oh, Damoni, can mute? Hey, mute. I'm good. All right. So sorry about that. So as a W3 school gives you access to a variety of language at the top here. So HTML, where we can learn to do different things in HTML. Can create forms in HTML. We can create layouts in HTML. We don't know what these things stand for because all I've been learning in class is the fundamentals. I know paragraphs. Let me check out a paragraph. I can try things myself to probably mess around with paragraph a little. But this gives me a real-time engine to play around in. Let me just close these things, right? And maybe I want to go in a more advanced topic like tables. Maybe I want to know what a table looks like. Maybe I want to create a table in my HTML file. Let's try myself to play around with it to see what that looks like, right? A table tag in itself has a table row, just like how you have a row here, and table headers, which is just information on the top, which is a header. And you have the data here, which is Alfred, whatever another. And you can just relay things to how they will actually look inside the HTML code and execute on it, right? And at the top here, already familiar with style sheets. So style sheets, in essence, is something we're also familiar with. And understand as well that these are just referencing HTML tags because they don't have the dot and they don't have the number sign, which is the ID, and the dot, which is a class. They're referencing the tag directly. So I'm saying let's dive into a deeper, more advanced CSS topic, which is probably image gallery. Oh, it's a nice image gallery, right? Do they allow me to try things myself? Yes, they do. So I maybe want to challenge myself and go bizarre and get wild with whatever I'm creating, right? I am already familiar with the things that we already taught, right? We know that div is a tag, we know that body is a tag, and as we open the body tag, we can close it. But these are nice image layouts, and maybe this image is referencing something that I haven't referenced. But I can start playing around with these things to say, it says add a description here, which must affix something on the right hand side that says add a description here. Maybe I want to say, I'm going to claim it. This is my image, right? With exclamation, and I'm going to run it. Nice. You see things are being edited on the right hand side. So I can start playing around my skills because I already know that at a fundamental level, they're just HTML tags. But let's say I want to play around with CSS a little too. I know how the references work. I know that div tag is just referencing another div tags or all my div tags. I know that the dot represents a class. So now we're looking into a more what do you call it? Sorry, a more hierarchical structure for CSS. You realize that you can now drill down into things by using different references. So this is referencing a tag, and this is referencing a class, right? So dot is a class, and this is a tag. So we know that the tag here is a div tag. So we're going to find all the div tags that are associated with that. And I know that that descending, sorry, is a class. So let's look for this class, right? So looking for class, looking for this. Oh, here it is. So div tag dot class, right? So I know that my style sheet should affect this personally or directly, right? So I'm going to mess around with some things. Already familiar with background color, right? So we're just going to write some code ourselves because we're happy-go-lucky. Or we can just copy and paste it from here. Already write it, so let's reuse. And this is a thing that programmers does a lot. We reuse code. We don't want to write the same things over. I'm going to paste that, I'm going to run it. Wow, it changes the color because we're still in our style sheet and we're applying different concepts that we're familiar with and getting familiar with. So take on something big and just break it. Remove a couple div tags and see what happens. Just remove one and run it. You realize it gone, right? Remember, once you open a thing, you have to close it. So remove the image, play around with it, run it, right? You remove that, put it back, run it again. You see the change are happening in real time. So this is how you really build yourself. And you realize that we have image tags now where we reference image using attributes such as source. It's just a JPEG file being referenced here, right? So it's just to say that HTML and CSS collectively are small building blocks of things, just like a building. We put a series of blocks together to form one unified thing, which is a website, which in essence is just a file itself. All right, and that pretty much concludes class for the day. I mean, if you guys have any questions, I'll answer them quickly, but I really want you guys to answer them yourselves. You have the building blocks. We've given you bricks, build homes. And as we go further now, as we go further, as I say, into JavaScript, we'll start to bring things to life. So JavaScript in itself. So how I break it down in my mind, you guys have to follow the same concept. Find things that work for you. Just like I have things in my editor that doesn't necessarily might be easier for you, might be more difficult. It's a creative process. So HTML in itself is a skeleton. It functions as the structure that holds up the body, right? But HTML in itself looks ugly, similar to a skeleton. I don't look handsome in my skeleton. I'm not being conceited, right? CSS now in itself is the skin of the web, right? So the skin applies some style, some beauty. I can identify a person with its skin. I can differentiate a document with the skin that's applied with CSS. Now JavaScript is like the muscle inside the body. JavaScript create functionalities, just like how we can 2 plus 2 equal 4 just a while ago. We can also make the boxes jump and move. Let me go to a site that is heavy in JavaScript before we go. I know I say I'm not going to share my screen again. I really want you guys to just grasp the concept. It's simpler than we think. People complicate it. So I'm just going to go to our website. You know what I'm going to do, don't hate. Right? So I'm just going to go to my company website just so you guys can visit. It's brainbox.io. You guys can follow the Instagram page, brainbox.io as well. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So this thing that is moving in the background, right? That's JavaScript, right? You see things playing out, things probably jumping out at you on the page. These different load things. This is JavaScript. It's making things move. Without JavaScript, you'll probably be greeted with this by itself, right? No animation. As I hover over it, you realize things are moving. And I know, X, I'm not going into it. Stop it. So JavaScript is the thing that allows you to do this. CSS can do it too because CSS are advanced. Just like the browser back before, the browser was created to translate documents. Now we can read more advanced things. The things has grown. So CSS, I can do all this with CSS as well. But JavaScript is the recommended thing. Like I said, it depends on specific use case. It's easier, right? So scrolling to the website, you realize that things are coming to life, and JavaScript allows me to do it. So without JavaScript, I couldn't load some of these blogs that was written by my partner and I, right? I can't load more, and then you see the loading icon come up, and things start to load. I can't do that. It becomes difficult. All I can do is create static things that we've been creating before, things that are very static in nature, similar to this, that doesn't do anything special. So JavaScript in itself is the muscle, just like we rely on um, we rely on our muscles to move and animate us. JavaScript allows us to animate ourselves, just like the muscle does. So I connect web development with the body. So these are the fundamental things that you can use to create any. Let me tell you something. You can create any website with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Full stop. You can hold me to that to the end of the grave. And trust me, when you're talking about backend, you can write backend with JavaScript. No. So before JavaScript never allowed you to write backend code, but this guy called Ryan Dahl, you can look into him. He created something called Node.js, which fundamentally took a principle called C Sharp, is another language which was created by Microsoft, right? And is it no C plus plus? Sorry, C plus plus. Some of you are familiar with. He basically created a layer. As I said, when you learn JavaScript, you'll appreciate it more. A layer of JavaScript on top of C++, because C++ is closer to ones and zeros, which is compiled down into ones and zeros for the machine to understand server code. So you can use JavaScript to create server code as well. So you can create an entire application. I created mobile application using JavaScript. So JavaScript is very powerful. I'm just trying to emphasize the power of it. And as we learn mobile development in the class, you realize that we can use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to create mobile application as well. CLI2, which is mentioned in the syllabus as well, is command line interface. You can just write commands to compile this to an iOS app, write a command to compile it to an Android app. So they're making life easier for you. And the CLI in itself can allow you to spin up complex projects that already have mundane things in place that you can reuse. Yeah, and tweak, right? So, like I said, the fundamentals of it is use the internet. It is your friend. You don't need to be a coding whiz like it's shown on television. You don't need to know all the syntax in your head. The internet is there for a reason. Search engine is becoming more advanced for a reason. Search a thing, look up templates, play around with Facebook side, copy them code, break things, crash things. But I tell you, it's a journey, but it requires patience. You will get it over time. And for in close, right? Think of if you're learning to speak Spanish or Portuguese or French or another language, how difficult it might be or how timely it might be. Similar to programming, it's another language. You're just writing it, you're just not saying it. And if you want to talk about it with your friends, go ahead, not stopping you, but it's just another language you're learning. So open your mind to that time process that it takes a while, and it takes a lot of practice. Just like how you verbally communicate Spanish to your friends in Portugal, no, sorry, in Spain, sorry, for example. That is how you build on your vocabulary. You build on your programming vocabulary as well by writing code repeatedly. You're going to say Spanish as in Portugal. Anyway, sorry. So stop it, right? So apologies for that. But keep building on it. We have a group for a reason. It's a community, guys. Programming itself is a community. Things become popular in the programming world because of communities. So if you don't understand something or you're stuck on something, or maybe you want to go ahead of the class, ask the question. If we're not start learning JavaScript and you ask the question, we're not going to not answer it. We're going to walk you through it and we'll guide you. So thank you guys for coming. That's it for me. Any questions?
No, but I'll surely ask in the WhatsApp group if necessary.
All right, I love that. Thanks, Damani. All right, so I'm guessing it's the same for everyone. So, like I said, it's an open community. I saw you put, somebody just asked somebody something. I saw you put, all right, not sure what you're saying, Joel. And if you had a question,
Unmute.
all right, well, I think Joel mic was working. I think it was one of the persons. Yeah, yeah, Joel mic was working. All right, so I'll just give Joel some time to type out these questions. But like guys, just use the community. We're building on it. People are becoming more familiar. I'm seeing doctors build websites now, which is amazing. I'm seeing brand managers creating websites, which is also amazing. It's really inspiring for the class because people are actually learning. So a big step. This week assignment will fundamentally be the same. Get familiar with CSS, get familiar with HTML, build something awesome. Use a template, modify it, create something of nature. You know HTML, you know CSS, build it.
Can give them like additional
That, we probably could.
post it in the group.
Yes. All right, so I think Joel isn't asking anything. I'm not sure. All right, but Joel asked the question in the WhatsApp group. We'll respond to you. Guys, I want to wish you guys an amazing weekend. Stay cool. All right, no problem, Joel. So I want to thank you guys for coming today. Stay awesome. Keep coding. Yeah, I feel like a YouTube person. Yeah. Subscribe. Hit the subscribe button right now, please. All right, bye guys. Later.
All right, guys.
I was waiting for time.